computer. All right, I'm gonna go live now.
Okay.
Pressed it. I pressed the button. All right, we are live. Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us. Everyone who's here live. Looks like we've got like 12 people according to this little YouTube studio view. Very exciting.
Maybe I shouldn't be making the most annoying noises possible.
Yeah, we can't edit these. Well, we probably can. I've never tried.
Hi.
Imagine if I had to go and edit the video and the audio.
Ugh.
I guess I would just edit the video and then release it as the audio. I don't even know what we would do. Sounds insane.
Yeah, it's not happening. So
we could hire someone to do
Let's
that.
not even think about it.
Okay. Yeah, thanks everyone for joining. I think we got a really crazy show planned, like usual.
So crazy.
Guess we might as well. Brian's saying it like it's sarcastic, but I know he doesn't mean it sarcastically.
I wasn't.
I know. Yes. I'm explaining to everyone.
I think like deadpan is the
so crazy. It's like, okay, I mean, obviously, yeah, the world is a crazy place. So in comparison, this podcast isn't that crazy, but for a fantasy hockey podcast, how many players would you say I have? We have the doc and like I bold the players' names when I'm going through, just so it's going to be easy to find them. And like how many bolded, I wonder if Google Docs could even just tell me like how many bolded words in this document. There's got to be like, I'm going to guess 60.
Okay.
We'll see.
Yeah,
cover them all.
That's fun. That's a fun thing to guess.
I shared the doc with the patrons early this time.
I'm pretty sure at least someone was on it while I was like doing my side of the prep.
People, why isn't Leo Karlsson playing today?
What?
What is this?
Wait, what?
Wait, what?
What?
It's in the chat.
Can I move him into IR or whatever?
Quick. No.
Is
he a healthy scratch?
Who said that? Jay Brew.
Are we mad at Jay Brew?
Shoot the messenger.
Yeah. What a jerk.
I get to feel good about a guy, and it's like it doesn't happen that often.
Okay, let's check.
Verbeek has a plan. What?
The plan won't be in the lineup first. Will occasionally sit out in first half of season.
Oh my god. Base. Will occasionally what? He'll occasionally sit out because why?
Has a plan for him to be a horse in the second half of the season, so he needs to rest in the first. I've never heard of this before.
Well, we have. Okay, I guess we'll talk about it on the show.
Okay, this is good. We'll add this to the show now. I guess.
Is stupid.
All right, yeah, let's save it for the show.
NHL coaches think they're such
brilliant geniuses. Let's rest our 18-year-old. That's clearly
he only got 13 hours of sleep last night. We should probably give him the day off.
Maybe it's like he's growing. Anyways, let's save this for the show. We got
yeah, on the show we're more buttoned up, I guess.
No, I mean we don't have to be. There's no rule. All right.
Norm.
Yeah, this is some crazy stuff. Okay, let's start.
All
Ready?
These coaches with their plans. You know what they can do with their plans?
Shove them.
Shove them up their candy. What was it? Was there a preamble to like whenever The Rock would tell someone to shove something?
He'd be like, "This is what I think you should do. You got to roll it up real nice. Pack it up, get it all whatever." He'd do a whole little thing like that, and then shove it up your candy.
Is there maybe that could be your opening joke? Two guys who are going to take all the fantasy news this week, roll it up in a nice little package.
I don't
fold it up, stick it in an envelope, and shove it in your candy. Your ear candy headphones or skull candy. Isn't there like a brand?
I'm not gonna do that, but it's a really funny idea.
Why won't you? You don't have anything better.
Yeah, I do.
We're getting hearts. People are hearting it.
It's good for the live show, and people won't know what we're talking about for the action.
It
has nothing to do with anything. Okay,
it's what we do on the show.
Okay, I've got to start, and it's a corny joke.
What was the Rudy Poo candy ass? What was what's Rudy Poo?
Can I start?
Well, I'd like you to start the way I'm suggesting.
Okay, how about you do the intro?
No.
And then you can do it.
It's funnier when you do it.
All right. Yes! Welcome everybody to another episode of the Keeping Karlsson Fantasy Hockey Podcast, the longest running fantasy hockey podcast in the world, hosted by two guys who can relate to Alex Ovechkin now that we have kids, because we've also gone many days in a row without taking a shot. I am your host, Elon Dubrovsky, and with me, Brian's shaking his head, to break down this last week of NHL action. We're going to go all around the league as per usual, and it's not going to take too long. JK, it's going to take forever. It's Brian Com. Brian, how you doing?
Hey, I'm good. I'm so excited for the show tonight. But I also want you to know I'm in a bit of a different frame of mind. I went to a Raffi concert today.
That's
and
fun.
I feel like if the whole world could go to a Raffi concert, we'd solve a lot of things would be better. It was beautiful. I loved it.
What was the main message? Was it that he likes to eat and oat, opals, and bonono?
I mean, he did do that one.
That's a good one.
These songs about saying thanks and songs about sharing the earth and songs about, all I need is a song in my heart and love for my family. And and he had this moment where he was like, "Are there any Beluga grads in the audience?" And that's like, because there's Baby Beluga, his famous song, and then I guess he calls the generation of parents there listened to Raffi when they were younger, so they're the Beluga grads. And he's like, "I got a message for all you Beluga grads. Sing a song," and he's saying like a new verse for the parental generation about all the things they could do to sing a song of peace and be responsible and good-hearted citizens, and the job that they have to do as grown-up belugas. It was very, I mean, it sounds ridiculous.
I'm glad you had a good time.
I think we should, yeah. It was transcending.
Every episode now, Brian is going to throw a plug to a non-sponsor of the show. Last week it was his favorite Sports Alerts app. Here it's to his favorite kids singer. So it'll be fun to see what happens next week.
He's still got it. If you don't know Raffi, I mean, I feel like we're slowly morphing into a dad cast, but here we are. Anyway, we have so much. Here's what we're going to do on this episode. We're going to take everything that's happened in the NHL over the last week, wrap it up into a nice fantasy hockey package. No, I can't do it. I'm sorry. I'm bailing on it. You can just pick up from before I started that.
You're giving me more work now.
Sorry.
All right. Where am I going from?
I said it was like a dad cast, and you were going to say that, and you had said there's like something weird I say every time. Okay.
All right.
Okay. You got it.
Should we start the whole show over again and not talk about Raffi? Okay.
No.
All right. I don't even know where I'm going from now. You really threw me with that edit point. Okay.
Sorry.
All right. Well, Brian, I guess with that, let's get back to hockey because, we got a crazy show for today. I'm super stoked. I've gone through every single NHL team, coming up with at least something to throw at you. And I got a fun order here. We're going to go in the order of teams, in the order of the cupful leading point getter from each team, the Keeping Karlsson Ultimate Patron Fantasy League. We're going to start with Kucherov. We're going to go all the way down to, well, I'll leave that as a fun guess for the listener. Which team has the player with the lowest total points to lead his team so far in cupful scoring? Obviously, it's a little weighted by games played, but we're doing our best here. But this is going to be a really fun show presented by Dobber Hockey, as per usual, an awesome site and resource. I use Frozen Tools to prep the show all the time. Great articles. Check it out, dobberhockey.com. But okay, with that, Brian, let's start with the Tampa Bay Lightning, because I've got here a ranking of every single player on Yahoo in my Cupful League, where, by the way, I'm about to go 0-2. A little bit like, oh no, not again.
Uh-huh.
I actually didn't have such a bad week this week, but I played against, I think, one of the top teams in the league, and Dave, he just destroyed me, man. Jack Hughes. He's very good. We'll get to New Jersey soon. Okay, but we're starting with the player with the most fantasy points so far going into today. Today is Sunday, so we're not including today's game. I don't know if DeBrincat and Larkin have done enough today to catch up, though maybe, because Larkin had another great game and he started the day with like 43. Oh yeah, I think Larkin actually did jump up to the top actually. But we're going into today. Nikita Kucherov.
You also, sorry, you just buried the lead. Like DeBrincat had a hat trick too. I think we should at least mention that if you're focused on Larkin.
Well, I mean, I'll get to Detroit, but I was focusing on Larkin because he was like 7 points out of top of Cupful scoring going into today. I guess DeBrincat had 40 points going into today, and he just picked up 19. Oh, you're right, actually. 59. Yeah, I think DeBrincat is now the couple leading scorer after today. So yeah, Detroit is okay. Whatever. Let's already mess with the order before we even started. Detroit's crazy. So they have just defeated. Quick edit point here. Defeated
Boston.
The Calgary. No, the Calgary Flames 6-2. And DeBrincat and Larkin have just come together to be so amazing. We don't really have any fantasy advice here, except for like feel bad about yourself for not having drafted DeBrincat and Larkin earlier.
I mean, like, sure, yeah, but I think the fantasy advice also does extend to anybody who's like, is this really going to keep? Like, is this a sell high moment, right? Or are you're not thinking that at all?
No, I'm not. Like, are you? Like, I mean, Larkin and DeBrincat are crushing it. They're two amazing players. They're not like coming out of nowhere here. They get top line deployment, top power play. Like, obviously, yeah, they're probably not going to be like the top in all of Cupful. So I guess if you're thinking now, yeah, try to trade them for like Leon Draisaitl, sure. But definitely, I think I'm a lot higher on them than I was going into the year at this point. I think they are probably people that should have been drafted in like the second round.
Okay. Yeah. So I did my homework, Elon, as usual. And I think like at least we need to, because I don't know if you remember, but Nick Suzuki was off to like an insane start. It wasn't quite this insane last year, but he was off to a crazy start. And there was a lot of like, oh, he's not going to keep it up. And he didn't. And it was hard to even like put all the pieces together it was hard to imagine that Suzuki was going to fall off, even though all the numbers said he was going to, and then he did. So I wanted to know if Dylan Larkin was a Nick Suzuki candidate for this season. So right now, with today's game, Larkin's on a 150-point pace. And that's thanks to the fact that Larkin is pacing for 96 power play points just on the power play. Out of 11 points that Larkin has scored this season, he's got 7 power play points, and those 7 power play points have come in 6 games. Yes, Elon?
Yeah, I saw a tweet today that Detroit is like over 50% on the power play so far. And again, I know obviously you're going to say that's not going to sustain, but Detroit might have one of the top power plays. Bringing in Shane Gostisbehere, that's turned out pretty good, eh?
Well, okay. So now that makes me want to like go over to Hockey Viz live and see what Shane, like you're throwing me off. I'm going to get to Gostisbehere, okay? Because I want to look at Gostisbehere's isolated power play impact. But Bruce, you're jumping ahead. Like I'm not about to poo-poo Larkin. I'm just setting the table here. On the power play, like Detroit is converting like mad. They're scoring on 30% of their shots when Larkin's on the ice. Larkin himself is scoring on 20%, which is like normal for the power play. Larkin's been in on every single goal. These are numbers going into today's matchup. Larkin's been in on every single goal that's been scored while he's on the ice on the power play, and he is scoring at a rate of 26 points per hour on the power play, which that's about 3 times the high end of power play scoring rates. So like this is bonkers bananas. And of course I could have ignored all that and just told you who's pacing for 96 power play points. Anyway, this leaves the fact that Larkin is pacing for about 55 points at 5-on-5, which is solid because, even just 25 power play points, whole season, and that gets Larkin basically at a point per game pace. But the thing is that Larkin is also kind of due at 5-on-5 too. His shot rates are way up this season, which you love to see, both at 5-on-5 and on the power play. And he looks really good. So I'm not saying I set the table and now I'm pulling the tablecloth from underneath and saying, no, I don't think Larkin is a Suzuki candidate here. Like of course, 150 points is a little far-fetched, but at least point per game and upside for more is definitely there for Larkin. So Elon, what I want to know before I talk about DeBrincat is who did you pick instead of Dylan Larkin in your Cupful draft?
Oh, I mean, I didn't know you were going to be asking me that.
Okay.
So I took it rounds 4 and 5. I took Laine and I took Forsberg, and I really hope Larkin and DeBrincat weren't available. Okay, I could actually bring this up right now. And okay, actually, no, Brian, do you have an answer for yourself while I'm bringing it up for me?
So it's funny because we had a similar draft position, and I also took Laine and Forsberg at the 4-5 turn. DeBrincat was gone by the time I took Laine, but Larkin was still on the board. He was taken 3 picks later.
Actually, no, Larkin and DeBrincat were gone for me, so I don't have to feel too bad. Though I did take Erik Karlsson in round 3. and I took Alex Ovechkin in round 2. So there were a lot of people that
instead of DeBrincat and Larkin in round 2 and 3. Like I took Jake Gensel like early in round 3, and DeBrincat went middle of round 4. I don't know. Like I'm not mad about that. And maybe now's a good time to at least check in on DeBrincat, whose hat trick today gives him 8 goals in 6 games. Half of DeBrincat's games this season have been multi-goal outings, and half of DeBrincat's outings this season have been 3 or more point nights. DeBrincat's now up to 8 goals on 19 shots, so he's shooting 42%. This is puck luck swinging all the other way after what happened with DeBrincat last year in Ottawa. He's shooting, like, unlike Larkin, who is like racking it up on the power play. DeBrincat's still doing well on the power play, but at 5-on-5, he is shooting 38%. So obviously has a few more goals than he should have, but still doing great. Like under the hood, DeBrincat is shooting more than before, and that's great. He only has, quote unquote, 4 power play points. So what DeBrincat's doing is fantastic, and also seems really good. And so far, Elon, like we talk about that red flag that a player gets when they're changing teams. That red flag is nowhere to be seen with DeBrincat as a Red Wing. He's outrunning the new team curse somehow so far. And I kind of think he's going to keep doing it. And so this is like a nice case to remember whenever we talk about players changing teams and, is it ever worth it? Yeah. So congrats to anyone who did take that leap of faith with DeBrincat at the draft table.
We saw Matthew Tkachuk last year. Like, it's definitely not a guarantee that someone's going to go to a new team and be worse. We just said that it happens a little more than maybe you expect. But yeah, obviously this year, I guess the Matthew Tkachuk is DeBrincat, and maybe the DeBrincat is Matthew Tkachuk, because Matthew Tkachuk actually is not doing as well as maybe we would have expected. He's actually pointless in his last 2 games, and now I'm jumping all over the place and changing the whole show plan here. But yeah, like I wonder if that's sort of like him being snake bitten, just like DeBrincat was last year. I wonder how that'll all shake out. You get to a crazy point in the season this year. Like maybe someone now with DeBrincat is like, we could say, maybe try to make a trade for Matthew Tkachuk. Who knows? Maybe why not? Why wouldn't the person with Tkachuk take the guy with 8 goals versus someone with 0 goals? And I assume we would say to go with Matthew Tkachuk since he was ranked so much higher going into the draft. But I don't know, it plays with my head. I'm like, right now they don't seem too far off. I'm assuming you're okay. Just jump in and say if you would do that trade or not.
DeBrincat for Tkachuk?
Yeah, if you had Tkachuk.
I would. I think I'd still keep Matthew Tkachuk. I don't know, Elon. I still wanted to talk about Gostisbehere, but do you want me to just go in a bit on Tkachuk since we're here?
We're having a conversation. We'll jump around. We'll get back to everywhere we need.
Okay, all right. I just want to make sure we don't forget. Tkachuk looks amazing as always this season so far. All right. So if you're looking at a buy low, like when I was looking at Tkachuk's slow start, I have Kaprizov, who I drafted a few spaces after Tkachuk, and I'm like, Tkachuk is right wing eligible. Right wing has been a difficult position to fill on my roster this year. Is that a move worth making? And I decided no, but I still think that Tkachuk could still do better than Kaprizov this year. I think one thing is Tkachuk is missing Sam Bennett. Like it sounds kind of crazy, but he's playing with Verhaeghe and Luostarinen. Nick Cousins was also on his line for a game. Samoskevich was on his line for a game. So like it's kind of been Tkachuk and some guys. He's had Verhaeghe with him for a couple games now, but really I think that's one of the reasons that on ice, Tkachuk's on ice expected goals rates at 5-on-5, they're bad. Like they're not good. And it's a small sample, but I would be looking for that to correct quickly. And I have a feeling it is like a new line mate playing with a couple guys kind of scenario for him. Tkachuk, even with, the downtick in on ice threat for him and his line mates while he's on the ice at 5-on-5, there's still bad variance working against him. Like he hasn't scored at 5-on-5 yet. On ice shooting percentage is like 4% when he's on the power play. So that's when the line mates shouldn't matter. And the power plays just snake bit early on. So like, I don't know if you could trade up and get Tkachuk. If you picked like 5 or 10 spaces later, I would take a look and see if the guy you have might be someone compelling to a manager who has Tkachuk and is willing to give up, because everything else under the hood looks pretty good for Tkachuk, except that on ice threat And I maybe, Elon, you can tell me if you think I'm being silly, but I think that on ice threat is going to improve when Sam Bennett's back in the lineup.
Yeah, probably. No, I'm going to agree with you for sure that I think Matthew Tkachuk, you can't like all of a sudden knock him down too far. But I'll bet you anything. There's someone listening to the podcast with DeBrincat that could trade DeBrincat for Tkachuk, and the Tkachuk manager would agree.
Yeah, and so, I would. Yeah. I would rather Tkachuk. Who would you?
Yeah, probably. I said I'll take Tkachuk too, but I think that's a deal you could make. And it's like, this is the crazy part of the season where you can pull stuff off like that. But also DeBrincat for sure, like you said, is the real deal. So, it's one of those things where it's just like we're talking like super, super high end, and then maybe just like kind of high end. But though DeBrincat, I don't know. Right now, is he leading the league in goals? Maybe he's a good guy to make a bet on for the Rocket Richard. So, who knows? Anyways, we have like 32 teams to talk about, and we haven't even gotten through Detroit yet because you wanted to talk. Yeah, so I'll mention some other guys
because I wanted. Okay.
Yeah. So Shane Gostisbehere had points every single game this season going into today, until it looks like finally, even though Detroit scored 6 times, and Gostisbehere had 5 shots though, so no points, but 5 shots is pretty nice if you're not going to get a point. Also, Norm wanted us to talk about Andrew Kopp, who had 4 points in 4 games. He's now pointless in 2. So I think we could kind of just forget about. Sorry, Norm. Like I think forget about Andrew Kopp. Okay, like I think the main guy who's probably available that's now piquing my interest is Joe Veleno, who out of nowhere, he's the 3rd line center now. He's playing with David Perron, and Veleno all of a sudden he scored again today, and that's like his 2nd game in a row where he had to go. He had 2 goals in the game versus Ottawa. So out of nowhere, Veleno's doing stuff. He's a former 1st-round pick that hasn't really panned out. I assume you're going to say like no chances keeps up, but like, is he someone you're even looking at in free agency, or is he still just like don't pay attention to his whatever 3 goals on 5 shots in these last couple games?
I think I'm mostly gonna say that. Like, you didn't have to mention that he took 5 shots. That's my job. So yeah, Veleno's like shot rates haven't really improved, and threat has not really improved either. Like, he is still young. He's 23 years old. He'll turn 24 in January. But Elon, you called him a 1st-round pick, and I just think it's worth clarifying. He was 30th overall, which is basically a second. Like, anyone picked, yeah. Like, that's what his agent will tell teams who want to sign him. But fantasy, it doesn't go very far. Kopp, by the way, I know you just wanted to slide past him because we have so much to talk about, because we decided that now we're going to talk about every team, every episode. Andrew Kopp, his shot rates are up. And so what Norm noticed was apt. I don't really know why. Like, his shot attempts are up just by a little, but Kopp's shot rates are up a lot. And so are his expected goals. So I think Kopp is having, like, taking better, clearer shots when he's on the ice. But Kopp also is benefiting from a 12% on-ice shooting percentage. His on-ice expected goals rates aren't anything special. So nice little run for Kopp. But maybe, Elon, I guess where I'm going with this is maybe Kopp is a little more worthwhile as a stream this year than he was last year, just thanks to that extra shot volume, especially if he can keep up this threat level too with the shots that he's been taking.
Yeah. And also, just in general, we should just say Detroit 5-1. They're looking like a really awesome team so far. We'll see, obviously, if this power play keeps up. But James Reimer, even as the backup, has had 2 great starts in his games. Like, he becomes, just like you said, Kopp is a good streamer. I think James Reimer right now is like looking like a really good streamer whenever he gets a game in, because just all of a sudden, like, Detroit is like the powerhouse team of the league. It'll be really fun to see how this plays out over the next little while here in the season, if they could actually keep this up. Maybe the Yzer plan was brilliant the whole time, Brian. But okay, I guess we should move on to another team here. Back to the plan. It looks like you were like, oh, you want to jump in? You're not ready.
Yeah, sorry. I was just looking up, like, usually the number that we can look at to see, like, if a team is really good or if they're like getting above average shooting and goaltending, which is something we haven't mentioned it for a while on the show. But PDO, right? Like, usually there's an expected number that every team is going to have for shooting percentage and save percentage at 5-on-5. And right now, Detroit ranks 3rd in the league in PDO. So we're going to see some regression, but they are like crushing it in every aspect. So we'll see exactly how much they regress. But right now, Detroit, and I could have told you this without even looking it up, Detroit leads the league in shooting percentage at 14%. Most teams will shoot like 8 or 9% through the year. So we'll see. Like, the best will shoot 10. So there's some regression for sure, but we'll see how much for this Detroit Red Wings team. Let's celebrate, not to be a wet blanket. Good job, Red Wings. LGRW.
Yeah. Also, like, you got to split up, like, obviously the even strength shooting percentage and the and the power play. Like we said, the power play is going insane.
It is the 5-on-5 shoot. Yeah.
So you're saying they have the third best 5-on-5 shooting percentage and they have the top power play so far. So
I'm saying Detroit has the best 5-on-5 shooting percentage in the league. And if you combine that with the goaltending they're getting, they have the third best PDO.
Jeez, good for them. Well, hey, you gotta be able to take good shots in order to score goals. And what am I talking about? Okay, let's move on.
What?
Okay, we gotta move on. I'm just saying, like, there is some skill in taking like a shot. Like, I know, like,
of course.
I was just
teasing you.
Our whole thing is like, obviously a high shooting percentage generally means that the player's overproducing. That's kind of how we started this podcast way back in the day. That's, I guess, how advanced stats kind of started. But please.
Before we leave Detroit, 5 shots today for Gostisbehere, as you mentioned, in 22 minutes. Those are both season highs. Gostisbehere only had 7 shots through his first 5 games, even though in those 5 games, Gostisbehere somehow had a 5-game point streak through them, despite barely shooting. It's nice to see him settling into a power play 1 role. Elon, you said, like, is he helping the power play? The short answer, according to Hockey Viz, is no. Like, he's just like a guy doing stuff, which is great. But maybe that's better than the next best option on Detroit. He's good. I've always liked Gostisbehere.
Okay. Sometimes you got to wonder about these models a little bit. But anyways, whatever. They have one of the best power plays. And I feel like
Elon's just asking questions, guys.
I mean, okay, I'd love to dive into this more. We probably should move on to the next team. I'd be surprised if the answer is Gostisbehere is like not contributing at all to this power play. But okay, we should.
I didn't say that.
You said what? He's just being an average guy. What did you say? Let's explain. Okay. All right. Well, so such a good power play. I guess anyone would do well there. Okay, let's go now to the Tampa Bay Lightning. The plan for the show at the start was we're going to go through each team in order of the couple leading scores going into today. So going into today, Nikita Kucherov led the whole entire cupful in fantasy points. And he's having an incredible season. Definitely great value. I guess it's kind of surprising. You would have expected it to be one of the guys who was drafted like top 4, top 5. But no, it's Kucherov. And lucky for him, his teammate Steven Stamkos, who was injured, is back. So we can take a look now at the latest Tampa Bay lines. They're always trying fun little new experiments. The latest being Alex Barré-Boulet playing with Point and Kucherov, and then Stamkos is playing with Cirelli and Hagel. I remember going into the year, it was like seemed like such a sure thing that it was going to be Hagel, Point, and Kucherov. Already, that seems like such a long time ago. I remember thinking that Hagel was going to be on the top power play. That's also such a long time ago. Nick Paul has really like cemented that job at the start of the year. He's had like 2 good games and a lot of nothing games. Basically, whenever I stream him in, he does nothing, and vice versa. But yeah, I don't really have much to ask. Like, obviously, we could just point out, go for Alex Barré-Boulet playing with Point to Kucherov. Not that I'm actually expecting that to last or him to do too much. But yeah, I guess you got to watch these Tampa lines because it looks like they're changing pretty often, and random players are getting into good spots now and then.
Yeah. So keep an eye, except like we know, like if Anthony Cirelli ends up in a good spot, like he's not that interesting. If Nick Paul ends up in a good spot, And so Alex Barré-Boulet, 1 goal on 3 shots against Toronto, 15 minutes of ice time. If he holds on there, I don't know if I'm sure you remember, Elon, about like sometime through the midpoint of last year, there was like Alex Barré-Boulet madness, and we all thought like he was going to be the next big thing and blow up, and he didn't. It went out with a thud, whatever something that doesn't actually detonate when you expect it to, whatever the word is. So I'm more interested in him than Cirelli. Like I'd be like, I'll stream Barré-Boulet if he's up there, but we've never seen like guaranteed production on these top lines, but it's good to know who's there. And right now it's Barré-Boulet.
Yeah. Also, Jonas Johansson, he's letting 3 or more goals every single game this year. So he's getting a lot of volume. Depends on your league, whether he's been valuable to you if you jumped on him. But yeah, he's clearly like not that great, but good enough to be the top goalie in Tampa right now with Vasilevskiy injured. That's pretty much all we can say about him, right? Yeah,
well, with Vasilevskiy injured and no cap space, it's Jonas Johansson. Like, although it is compelling to say he sucks, I don't know that like he's been as bad as famously mentioned that he was. He's Johansson's seen the 6th hardest workload so far amongst goalies who've seen at least a couple starts this season. And even though he's had the 6th hardest workload, he has the 14th worst 5-on-5 save percentage. So he is still hanging in there, performing about as well and as an average goalie would with his workload. So he's not great. All right. But hey, neither has Tampa been in front of him. And that we saw that coming, right? Like Vasilevskiy, they lean on hard, and they're finding out that they can't lean on Jonas Johansson exactly the same way. So we'll see how many other like play adjustments in tactics that Tampa wants to pull, or if they're just going to try and keep outscoring everybody while playing fast and loose defensively.
Okay, we're getting called out in the chat here by Patty that because of this format, I decided of ranking by a couple points leaders. We left out the clear top fantasy hockey headline of the week.
Yeah, we did.
So we're going to take a break. And then when we get back, we're going to get to the top fantasy hockey headline of the week, talk about this McDavid injury, which it's just kind of, okay, we'll get to it. All right, we'll take a break. We'll be right back. Okay, we are back, Brian. This has been a very frantic start to the show. Didn't go exactly how I planned, but I'm having a great time. Hopefully the listeners are too. But you know who's not having a good time? Anyone who drafted Connor McDavid. He was supposed to be such a sure thing. First of all, he hasn't been like so incredible this season. 8 points in 5 games, which is like 131 point pace, which is good. But like compared to
what more were you hoping for?
Hey, he had 64 goals. He's right now pacing for less than half a goal per game. And that's like 45 goals. Last year he had 64 goals. So I mean, I'm just saying.
Okay.
Like, he's Connor McDavid.
Okay. You want him to have like 1 or 2 more points by now. 1, basically. Like Connor McDavid, like the most you could hope for is like a 150 point pace. And he's at 130.
Yeah. Also, like more, tell me if this is dumb, but like you look at his game log, he's got points every game, of course, multiple multi-point games, no like 3-point games, no 4-point games. Like you feel like with McDavid, you're gonna like get some, you know, you want to like have a couple games a week or at least one where he like just destroys it, you know, like a hat trick, you know, something special that really like he hasn't actually blown the doors off. He's just been like consistently 1 or 2 points per game, which is obviously incredible, but he's Connor McDavid. But anyways, right now he's injured, so let's just not bury the lead. Gonna be out 1 to 2 weeks, it looks like. So I don't know, it'll be fun. What's that? Sorry.
Well, I just wanted to mention one other little McDavid quirk, and I don't know.
I was going to throw it. Okay, yeah.
Okay, I thought you were going to move on and ask me about the lines. I'm sorry. I should have waited. But there were 2 games where he played 17 and 18 minutes, and then he played 21 minutes against Winnipeg, and now he's injured. And I just wonder, like, if we saw this coming. He's also been shooting less. Like he's taken 3 shots combined in his last 3 games. And actually in 4 of 5 games this season, McDavid has taken 2 or fewer shots. The outlier there, the 5th game, of course, he took 8 shots, which is what McDavid does. But yeah, like by that measure, Elon, he is sort of like that first pick, he's supposed to do so much for you. And he's not, like the points might almost be there, but the shots haven't been. And the ice time also like has been strange. So interesting. Like I have a lot of questions about this.
Yeah, and so we'll see. Now we're gonna have to wait 1 or 2 weeks. He suffered this injury versus Winnipeg, upper body injury, and so it says, the latest tweet from Edmonton was like he'll be out of the lineup 1 to 2 weeks. So we'll have to see. Obviously, now the question becomes like what the lines will be. Who like McDavid was lining up with Draisaitl and Hyman, so you know generally Draisaitl's played with like not McDavid, and he'd be playing with RNH and like whoever. I don't know, maybe Hyman back when Connor McDavid was playing with Kane and Connor Brown. So we'll have to see now how things shake out. Maybe Connor Brown gets an invite back into the top 6, though obviously in a less exciting way. I don't know. It's really hard to like speculate. We don't even know what the new lines will be. I think it's pretty clear to say like it's bad for everyone. Like no one benefits. Like even if Connor Brown gets back in the top 6, or even if I don't even know who's the next. Oh, Evander Kane's gonna get on the top power play. Yeah, I guess that's good, but like, come on. Like if you're not playing with McDavid, that power play obviously loses a lot of heat. Not to take anything away from Draisaitl and Bouchard and all those guys, of course.
It's almost like it feels like when Nathan McKinnon gets injured, right? It's like, oh, well, now it's Mikko Rantanen's turn to shine, but you just know the roster is one piece thinner. And like, while Rantanen, in the analog here is Draisaitl, can certainly handle that, you wonder about the rest of the roster too. Like I could see Draisaitl carrying on like nothing's different, but I'm not sure that I could see the same for Hyman and Nugent Hopkins and Bouchard. And like you said, Elon, like Evander Kane is the one who probably gets the biggest bump here. So he becomes interesting, or at least a little more interesting than he has been lately. But that might be about it. Also, while we're talking, I don't know if we need to say this out loud, but Connor Brown, no points and 4 shots through 5 games. And on the 4th line. So if you have been holding him because you like think he's playing with McDavid or is about to play with McDavid, I think, you should, I know you should just let go. This is just a little Connor Brown snoozer alert in case you've been snoozing.
Yeah, if anyone still has him, then you haven't been playing hard enough because you should have let go of him like last week. Okay, so let's go down this list. So Kucherov, number 1. Number 2, again, total a couple points going into today. Austin Matthews kind of riding on those laurels of 2 hat tricks to start the season. Since then, pointless in 3 games, so he's still good enough to be number 2 for now, but he's going to have to pick it up or he's going to lose his spot very quickly. Obviously, we're not going to be too worried about Matthews still taking a lot of shots. I'm sure Leafs fans in the chat or someone could tell us about all the great goalies he's played against. He didn't score against Jonas Johansson, though. So for what it's worth in the last game. The name I want to ask you about, Brian, I got a hot streak and a cold streak on Toronto that I think are interesting. Matthew Knies, big game versus Tampa, 2 goals and 1 assist. He's been on the second line with Tavares and Nylander, who, by the way, have been the 2 hottest Leafs over this past week, with Austin Matthews going a little cold. Is this like a situation where you rush to add Matthew Knies? Because he's obviously this high pedigree prospect. He's a Leafs top prospect. He's getting the deployment. It's like, this is what you wanted out of Bertuzzi or Domi, going into the year. Both of those guys were getting drafted. Bertuzzi, by the way, only 1 assist in his last 5 games. He's been getting the bunting treatment, with Matthews and Marner not doing anything with it. So I don't know if that has to be like a comparison question, but I'm just curious to get your thoughts on like Matthew Knies. How appealing as a free agent is he? And then Bertuzzi, like how much longer should people hold on?
Just for anyone smarting from what you said about Matthews, and I'm sure all the Leafs fans can tell us how great the goalies have it. Like, it sounded very glib, and I know you didn't mean it that way, but Matthews is not struggling. Okay. Like, I know the goals haven't been there, but Matthews has taken 17 shots in his last 3 games, despite scoring no goals. That's okay. And Matthews is also playing 25 minutes a night, thanks to lots of power play opportunities and this new short-handed role, which I'm wondering, Elon, is one of the reasons that you might not have noticed, but Matthews' hit and block rates, they're not up a lot, but they're up a bit. So I don't know if you can find anyone who thinks you won't, but if anyone does think the sky is falling on Matthews and like he's just going to revert to what he was last season versus what he was 2 seasons ago, we're expecting the 2 seasons ago Matthews, then maybe this is an opportunity. Matthew Knies, 15 minutes, 2 goals, 1 assist, and 3 shots in his last outing. Like you said, Elon, with really great line mates and Tavares and Nylander. Knies had just 5 shots in his previous 4 games combined and no points. So I guess the question is, like if Knies is there, he's valuable. And I guess we just wonder who's going to challenge him for that spot. And I don't know, Elon, like looking at the roster, I'm not sure. Like last week we mentioned Yarncroc as being someone who he
was there. He was in that spot.
Yeah. So I just don't know. Like I see Noah Gregor as like another guy, or
Max Domi is still there.
Like, I see guys who could slot in where Knies is. So we'll see if this is an audition or if it's a keep it till you lose it, or if it's like a complete one-off. But as somebody who could stay there all season, this could be a bit of a Michael Bunting moment. You said pedigree, Elon, just for everyone to like have the full mid-second round pick back in 2021. A couple good years at the University of Minnesota to finish off his Big Ten college career. Then
he's definitely one of those risers. Like, if you listen to like Victor's podcast, like if they did a redraft now, he would be in the first round for sure.
And then Tyler Bertuzzi, just 2 shots total in his last 3 games combined. He's on the second power play unit. But the thing is, I actually am not like so down on Bertuzzi here. He's been on the ice for 4 goals at 5-on-5. He hasn't pointed on any of them. Normally, based on points participation rates for forwards, we could expect him to have a couple points on them. Bertuzzi also hasn't scored on any of his 7 5-on-5 shots, which is like normal. Like he should score if we're like looking at his career shooting percentage, 1 of every 8, 9, 10 shots. So the shots are okay. And I still think Bertuzzi could be good for 55, 60 points, to be honest. I'm not giving up, but if Bertuzzi isn't doing much for a while longer, then it does make him hard to hold. But if you're looking for the Michael Bunting here, Elon, between Bertuzzi and Knies, I would still think Bertuzzi is the one most likely to give us that sort of production.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, I would prefer Bertuzzi over Knies at this point, but you would have hoped if you had Bertuzzi that it was more obvious at this point. But I will have to wait and see as the Leafs, again, next week, I said on Matchup Maximizer, every single team plays on Tuesday. So there's no point rushing to add someone unless you're really like certain someone else is going to take them, obviously. But I think it's the kind of day where you've got your like bottom guys on Yahoo. Now you can like drop players, even if they've started playing their game, as long as they're on your bench. I think Tuesday is going to be one of those days where you're watching the games. You've got your guys on the bench that are your closest to dropping. And then, if Knies starts going off again, maybe you make that move like Tuesday during the game. You don't wait.
Yeah, I'll mention one other Leaf who I'm not picking up for Tuesday, even though like he's tempting, but my lineup's already full, is Joseph Woll. I think the door has been opened. It's been left open by Ilya Samsonov, who can't shut the door on anyone shooting on him. Samsonov has the 2nd worst 5-on-5 save percentage in the league, better than only, I don't know. Do you want to take a guess?
Who's been really terrible? Is it Corpusalo?
No,
No.
no,
Okay,
not
I don't know.
quite. But Korpisalo's down there, but not. Samsonov's got an 831 at 5-on-5. Marc-Andre Fleury with an
Oh,
829 at 5-on-5, and Samsonov like is getting decent protection too. So Samsonov has not been playing well. Joseph Woll has had a good start or a decent start and a good relief appearance. And like I don't see much loyalty to Samsonov for the Leafs. So I don't know if Woll plays well on Tuesday. I don't know if he could start getting a run. Like, and I said this before the start of the season, Elon. I think Woll has a decent chance at skinnering Samsonov this season, and so we're seeing the first opportunity for him to do that now already, just a few games in.
yeah. So it'll be really exciting to watch and see what happens for a few of these players for this Tuesday. Toronto, Washington. That's gonna be an intriguing game. I'm still waiting for Ovechkin to score, so this will be a fun game with lots of. Man, I wish I could go to this game actually. Brian, let's go to Washington. That'd be really fun to go watch the Leafs and the Caps.
Okay.
When's our podcast going to become popular enough that we're getting flown out to games? Like, so is that a thing that happens?
Well, we have a company credit card. The thing is that like it still costs us, but maybe it doesn't feel as direct.
I guess.
Why, how would we get flown out to games? By who?
I don't know, like sponsors trying to wine and dine us to convince us to like take them on as sponsors. Is that a thing? Or I guess we're supposed to wine and dine the sponsors.
Yeah, I don't know how it works.
Anyways, we have
If
no
anyone
time for
does,
this.
like feel free to get in
Yeah.
touch. If you want
I
to
just wanna
sell
go-
ads for us, we will like, yeah, you know where to
I want to
find
go to
us.
that game. Okay, let's go to
Okay.
Florida now. So the next on the list, you want to guess? Brian, you have, anyways, we don't have time for that either. But listener, try to guess. The third leading couple point score is on Florida, and it's not Kachuk. It's not Barkov. It's not even Evan Rodriguez. Sam Reinhart. Holy
What?
cow. What a start to the year for Reinhart. He just had a 2-goal game in the loss to Vancouver. That was his 4th game in a row with at least a goal. 6 goals over his last 4 games. He's taking like 4 or 5 shots every single game. Sam Reinhart. We talked about him, Brian. If you recall, we did our Red Boys, Blue Boys episode over the no Green Boys.
Green Boys.
Green Boys are the players who did worse in the first half and then really exploded in the second half. And Reinhart was right up there. Like if he could keep up what he did in the second half, he's gonna have a huge year. So far, yeah, it's happening. It's looking really good for Reinhart. And anyone who drafted him right now is getting great value. Did you do one of those deep dives like you did for Larkin to say like, oh, he's on a pace that's not sustainable? Like how worried should we be about Reinhart not keeping up this amazing start?
Well, I mean, Reinhardt's on a 131 point pace, so like that's not going to hold. And before the season, we said that you can count on 70 and look for a point per game season long pace for Reinhardt. And I think we're seeing that. Plus, maybe a little bit. Plus, you're getting some extra shots to go with it. So, like, what I really like about Reinhart are his shot rates that you mentioned, Elon. 4 or more shots now in 4 consecutive games. And it's not, which makes it not such a coincidence that Reinhart has also scored at least a goal in 4 consecutive games. 2 of those goals have come on the power play. One of them has come shorthanded. So when I see that Reinhart has a 32% shooting percentage, I'm not saying like it's going to regress all the way, because a power play goal is a higher percentage shot, and a shorthanded goal. I you know what, I didn't see it, but I'm going to assume it's a higher percentage shot if you're like on a shorthanded break, which is just what I imagine happens. So someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's really exciting. So Reinhart, yeah, I like him. I'm trying to see where he went in my, like he's one of the like the DeBrinkets that I'm trying to see where he went in my cupful draft. He went 8th overall, 8th pick in the 6th round. I don't have the mock ADP up. I took Malkin 2 picks later, so I'm feeling pretty good about that still. But yeah, what a great time to get Sam Reinhart.
Yeah, and we should mention his line, right? He's been on the top line with Barkov and Evan Rodriguez, so that generally hasn't been his deployment. Like, there's been times when Reinhardt's been like tasked to run like the third line, and he's like good enough to top power play, but he's been kind of getting a Ryan Nugent Hopkins treatment sometimes. Like, you go and help shore up the rest of the lines. Barkov and Verhaeghe and whoever, Duclair, have it taken care of for the first line, but no, he's getting the best deployment with the best players, and yeah, that includes Evan Rodriguez, by the way, who continues to be awesome. He has 4 or more shots every single game so far. He had 2 assists in that last game where Reinhart was scoring goals. I assume that Erod was just assisting on those Reinhart goals. So yeah, Brian, let me ask a comparison for you because we've had a lot of questions about another Florida Panther, Carter Verhaeghe, who's now pointless in 2 games. A lot of people were drafting him super high after his 40-goal year last year. Joel wanted to know if it's not too late. Can you talk about Verhaeghe? He's playing with Tkachuk, but not receiving top power play time. Decent shots, not much production yet. If you had to choose right now, Brian, you could have Evan Rodriguez or you could have Carter Verhaeghe. Who are you taking?
Like for the week or the season?
Like, yeah, for the season.
Carter Verhaeghe.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the
like,
argument to take Erod would be he's on the top power play.
Yeah, but the question is, when Bennett's back, like how do things shake out? Like, because we thought Verhaeghe, by the way, who was 74-point player last season without top power play deployment, and we thought maybe he could sneak on to the top unit this year. He hasn't. Evan Rodriguez has instead. Then he'd be even better. But I don't know. I still believe, like, I know Verhaeghe's totals so far this season aren't awesome. Just 2 goals in 5 games and no assists. But Verhaeghe, part and parcel, goes with what I said earlier about Tkachuk, which is that there's just been a lot of playing with guys and shifting combinations. And I think having a hard time building chemistry and finding solid footing. So I think Verhaeghe's going to be okay. And I just don't know that Rodriguez is assured that top power play spot, that top power play spot all year long. Verhaeghe's shot rates are way down, but his attempts aren't, which also just tells me that maybe Verhaeghe's not getting in as good position, which could go to take a shot, which could go hand in hand with what we said about the line. So, like, honestly, I know it's like, I don't mean to defer or to assume, like, Sam Bennett is not like Mr. Fix It and is going to change everything. There's just going to be some more stability for Verhaeghe and Tkachuk, I think, with Bennett in the lineup. And we'll see again. Like, I don't know. I don't know what Verhaeghe is going to do on the power play, but I'll take that expected 70-point output at least from the second power play unit, and some really great 5-on-5 production from Verhaeghe rather than counting on Rodriguez not getting bumped.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like up to the coach in the end to decide. I think with the current deployment, I would take Rodriguez. Dumorb is saying here in the chat, like, a hot take. Look, I'm a shock jock here. I'm just like saying stuff to get the conversation going. My actual opinion is probably, if you put it to me, and I had to pick for the whole season, I would take Verhaeghe. But to be fair, so Dumorb in the chat is saying Verhaeghe had like 40 goals last year and Erod had like 40 total points. Why don't you ask yourself, how many points did Verhaeghe have in his first season before he came to Florida? Like, before coming to Florida, Verhaeghe was a nobody, right?
He was a 4th liner. Yeah.
So it's like people come to Florida and their careers take off. Okay. And so this is happening to Evan Rodriguez, just like it happened to Carter Verhaeghe. Carter Verhaeghe used to play with Barkov. They're tired of that. Barkov has a new friend. His name's Evan Rodriguez. And now Evan Rodriguez is getting all the sweet points. So I think that there's a good reason to expect that if this holds, and like Sam Bennett's not like guaranteed top power play, right? He was a lot on the second power play a lot of last year. So I think there's a decent chance if things are going well on the power play that just they keep that the same. Bennett goes to power play too. Yeah, Bennett centers that line with Tkachuk and for Verhaeghe. And I think it could go either way. I don't think it's like for sure Verhaeghe at this point.
I guess I'll agree that it's not for sure, but nothing's for sure. Nothing is for sure. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, let's go to New Jersey. Okay, so the next highest player in total points is Jack Hughes. I don't know how Jack Hughes isn't like the top, but definitely climbed very quickly after getting 2 goals and 2 assists against the Islanders. Oh, only 4 games. That's why. If you go by points per game, Jack Hughes would probably be right near the top right now. Just such an incredible season. Like, quickly, we like a couple weeks ago, I think I was like, Brian, is he like now top 5? I think we're getting to a point soon where we have to be like, is he like top 2? Like, is it like McDavid and then Jack Hughes? Maybe like he's competing with Draisaitl. Like, I don't know. He's just having such a crazy start. I'll let you, if you want to jump in and say anything that he's overperforming. But yeah, like at this point, obviously also in New Jersey, you look at the rest of the team. I guess the big thing we don't know about yet is Nico Hischier's status. I think he's hurt, but let me just check if we have an update here since I was prepping. It's absent from practice today. So yeah, we don't really know exactly how long. It's an upper body injury. With Hischier out, I guess we've been having Timo Meier playing with Jack Hughes, and he had 2 assists on that line. So maybe a start for Timo Meier to get going, or maybe just like, a random 2 assists. Brad is doing really great. Like I'm just kind of like mentioning a bunch of things going on in New Jersey, not necessarily questions. I guess the main sort of things to look at here are like, I don't know if we really need to talk about Timo Meyer again. I think it's like, let's wait a week now, see if he like clicks with Hughes and if that actually turns into turning his season around. I think there's maybe a chance. Dawson Mercer, you know, you were saying about Connor Brown before. I think Dawson Mercer at this point, he's not in the top 6. Like he's for sure a snoozer, right? Like a lot of people drafted him expecting big things. Obviously the lines could change, but like at this point, I don't see why you're holding Dawson Mercer unless maybe you're, you know, it's a 4-game week for New Jersey. And then also the other big news is Luke Hughes has jumped onto the top power play. A lot of people thought like, yeah, one day he'll be on the top power play, but not so soon. But I guess they like having those Hughes brothers together. They clearly have some chemistry. And Luke Hughes, our 4th overall pick from a couple years ago, just scored a power play goal from that top power play against the Islanders. I wonder if this is the start of something big. And also, like, it's not like sky's falling for Dougie Hamilton. He had a great game against the Islanders as well. But I wouldn't be surprised if Luke Hughes sticks. Like, why not? They're like, maybe they just like the brothers together. It makes sense.
Yeah. Does it?
Yeah, they're like they know each other. Like they probably like strategize.
Teams have had brothers. I don't know that they always play together.
Yeah, but brothers of this caliber, two amazing brothers.
You're right. Yeah. So I feel like in New Jersey, the
Sedins played with each other.
Yeah,
those were two awesome brothers.
They were twins. I feel like that's different.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. In New Jersey, like I can't sink my teeth too hard into anything that's happening. Like you mentioned Meyer, like, yeah, let's wait. You mentioned Luke Hughes on the top power play. I'm tempted to say also, like, let's wait and see.
Like grab him out of free agency if you can.
Yeah.
Obviously.
But absolutely. Yeah. Like you want Luke Hughes rostered for sure because this could stay. But I just get the sense that things are going to be like in constant flux in New Jersey. And maybe one reason for that, Elon, is that at 5-on-5, like the team is still finding their feet, including Jack Hughes. Like of his 10 points, Elon, Jack Hughes has 1 point at 5-on-5 through 4 games. Like that's pretty crazy, right? And it's a goal, and it's come on 10 shots, and there haven't been any other goals scored while Jack Hughes is on the ice. His numbers still look good, but he has 7 power play points in 4 games, which means he is pacing for 143 power play points alone this season. So, this is not to say anything. Like this is just a fun little bit of trivia. The Devils are shooting 5% with Jack Hughes on the ice, and they're getting outscored. Oh, sorry, I said they only scored 1 goal with Hughes on the ice. They've scored 2 at 5-on-5, but they've given up 6. So the save percentage has been bad too. Like that's a piece of that. So I don't know exactly what New Jersey's big plans are for the rest of the next while. So let's just keep watching to see how often they're going to change things up. But Jack Hughes is kind of getting like, it's weird to say, but the Dylan Larkin edit so far in that like the power play is like going like crazy, but the 5-on-5 hasn't even started yet. So we'll need another like several games of data to see where things level off, but an exciting start nonetheless. It's fun to just parse numbers for fun sometimes.
I mean, that's what we're here for. And I appreciate you so much. I can't imagine another co-host that would do the deep dives that Brian Com gives us. We're going to get more of those really soon. We're going to take a quick break. All right, Brian, let's deep dive into the Carolina Hurricanes because we're going down this list. And next up after Jack Hughes, we have John Tavares. We already talked about Toronto, but he's really good. Then we have William Nylander. And then get this. Again, this is total couple points. 5 for a goal, okay? 3 for an assist, and then some peripherals. And the highest on Carolina, who's next on this list, you'll never guess. I'll just have to tell you because you'll never guess. It's Jacob Slavin.
Tell me. Oh my gosh.
Jacob Slavin.
That's crazy.
It's insane. But he has a ton of fantasy points right now. Obviously, Carolina's played 6 games, so that helps. But yeah, 44 couple points. It's just been an incredible season for Slavin. 3 goals and 4 assists, 7 points in 6 games. He's not even on the top power play, but it doesn't matter. And like a week ago, Brady Shea was like the top defenseman in scoring. So Carolina just has this incredible defense because then they also have Burns. They also have D'Angelo, who's now, by the way, pointless in 3 games. We had a question from Oyo Gio. Is D'Angelo worth holding? Let me throw it to you this way, Brian. Let's say you have D'Angelo and you've got Shea and Slavin in free agency in a couple, with our peripherals. Are they all equal? Do you make a swap? Do you for sure hold D'Angelo? I don't even know.
I don't even know either. If D'Angelo's not scoring, he's not doing anything for you. right? So like, and we've made this point before about him going to Carolina. Like if the offense is not going to be consistently there, he's not really going to be worth your while. But the thing is that he's still seeing above a 50% share of power play time. And boy, Carolina is like, I think they're figuring out their power play still. There's a lot of power play time for a lot of players. And I think that speaks more to their lack of conversion rather than their glut of opportunities. But yeah, D'Angelo like played fewer than 10 minutes, 2 consecutive games leading up to the Colorado game on Saturday night, where he played almost 18 minutes again, thanks to 5 minutes of power play time. But I'm not I'm not overly attached to D'Angelo, although he has been like averaging almost 2.5 shots per game, which is as usual. So I think Elon, I would probably hang on to him a little longer. But Slavin is putting up 3 shots a game. Like, I don't know where these are coming from. His shot rates are up. I'm not asking too many questions. Well, I have questions about it, but they're not going to be answered. Slavin is benefiting from the Canes shooting 13% with him on the ice. I will point out that Slavin's ice time is down 3 minutes a night, but I think maybe that is just because Carolina has spent so much time on the power play and Slavin's not out with it. So we'll see. Like, we'll keep an eye on that. But if Slavin's ice time is down, even if his shot rates are up, I don't know that like how it even seems less sustainable than it would otherwise. And then Brady Shea, had that big early season bump, which is points participation rates are still coming down from. So that helped that he just kept getting in on all the goals scored while he was on the ice. So Elon, to answer your question, I would hold D'Angelo over Slavin and Shea for now, but I still would be very open-minded about swapping D'Angelo out for somebody else if D'Angelo can't find a way to, point in 2 out of every 3 games at least.
Yeah, and that power play is not like guaranteed, right? If he keeps on like, only getting 8-9 minutes a game, at some point maybe he gets benched and then you can't get on the power play if you're not even playing. So yeah, I think definitely you got to take a look in your free agency and see if Slavin's out there. Probably not with his start to the season, but like I agree with you, Brian. Like he's not going to keep this up, but he's gone hot before, and sometimes he goes hot for quite a while. And so you might as well get in on it while you can. There's still some more interesting guys on Carolina. So Seth still some more interesting guys on Carolina. Sebastian Aho is injured. I don't think it's super long-term. Frederick Anderson's also out. Also doesn't appear to be long-term, but in the meantime, Kochikov came in. So he's someone to look at. I guess he didn't have like the most exciting game, but it was against Colorado, which is a tough game, of course. In the meantime, Seth Jarvis had himself a huge week. He doesn't even need Sebastian Aho. 4 goals and 2 assists now in 6 games overall. Seth Jarvis is a high pedigree prospect. Sometimes with these guys, it takes a couple of years before they have their real breakout. Like he became fantasy relevant like last year, and maybe this is the year where Seth Jarvis becomes like a new like stud, like a guy you can depend on for 70 points. Like happened to Brink at one point. This kind of happened with a lot of the stars in the league now. They sort of had a lot of them had a couple years where they were just fine, and then they started going off. I wonder if this is the year for Seth Jarvis, and maybe you could ask the same question about Jesperi Kotkaniemi, who's also having a huge start to the year. 1 goal, 1 assist versus Colorado, up to 7 points in 6 games now. Brian, if you had to pick who has the higher chance of having a real sustained breakout this year between Jarvis and Kotkaniemi?
I'm going Seth Jarvis, but even in going that, I am going to pour a little cold water on the idea. I mean, first, Seth Jarvis, legit, yeah, like 13th overall pick back in 2020. This is his age 21 season. So Seth Jarvis is like, he's already been in the league for 2 full years and he's still just 21. So I think, Elon, it is good to remember that there is like, this guy is still on a development trajectory, right? And one thing that's worked for Seth Jarvis this year is he's seen a big bump in time on ice, 4 minutes total per night. That's thanks to a bump in power play and shorthanded deployment. But we'll also see what happens, with a healthy Aho in the lineup, whether Jarvis keeps getting all those minutes or not. In the meantime, yeah, Jarvis is doing pretty well. 4 goals on 18 shots, 22% shooting percentage. All 4 of his goals came on his last 9 shots, but 3 power play goals. So again, power play goals, like I will forgive a higher shooting percentage for. So again, let's see what happens when Aho comes back and how that impacts Seth Jarvis. But I like what I see. Like his underlying numbers continue to be good. And yeah, there is still a chance that Jarvis can show up and break out. Kotkaniemi, the reason, like doing great. Yeah. But no better deployment overall. Carolina is shooting 15% with Kotkaniemi on the ice. So I think I just don't see enough there. I see some high variance, and I see nothing else that's really changed for Kotkaniemi. But he's I didn't write down his age in my notes, but he's still a young buck too, right? 23. Yeah, this is age 23 season. So like, we always there can be this is his fourth season in the league. You've heard of the fourth year breakout. Usually happens for a player who is around this age. So I'm open to it. Third overall pick for anyone who forgets, back in 2018 by the Montreal Canadiens. I feel like the Canadiens have had some rough first rounds.
I mean, yeah, well, we're still waiting to see how Slavkovsky is going to turn out. But
it's Paling the year before, Kotkaniemi, Caulfield the year after. That's good. Keaton Gooley. Then they did the stupid thing, 31st overall at the end of the first round, picked Logan Mailloux, who, well, whatever. We won't. Slavkovsky last year, first overall, and David Reinbacher this year, fifth. Like, they've got a lot to prove to.
Yeah. Caden Gooley's good, I think, but yeah, it's like depends. You have got to compare to who they could have taken. By the way, with Kotkaniemi, if you look at his past 4 seasons, look at his paces: 29, 36, 43. It's going up. This year so far 96. So we'll see. Hopefully it'll be somewhere in between 43 and 96.
There's statistics for sure.
Brian, let's keep going here down this list of couple leading scorers. So you pass Jacob Slavin, we get to Dylan Larkin. We've already talked about Detroit, and like we said, Larkin and DeBrincat would both be higher if you included today's game. Next up, you go to the Boston Bruins. David Pastrnak, 42 couple points, but in only 4 games. Oh, he's actually playing right now against Anaheim, so we'll get some more data by the end of the night, maybe. But Pastrnak, incredible. If you average such points per game, he'd be right at the top. And why not point a goal or 2 in every single game so far this season going into this game against Anaheim? Any concerns people had? And Brian, I think we can safely say we said no concern. Like, everyone was like, what about Boston? Like, not having Bergeron, whatever. I think you and I were both like, he's David Pastrnak. Like, he's fine. I think the player that a lot of people were a little worried about, including some of our short shifts hosts, I'm be interested to get a retake on that, or get your opinion on Brad Marchand, because I think a lot of people were expecting that he might take a hit because he's had so many of his great seasons like playing with Bergeron, and now he's going to have to do a season without him. Also, he's like older, but Marchand looking so good. 2 goals and an assist versus LA, which, he's over a point per game now to start the year. Of course, again, I said it's only 4 games so far, but we're at 6 points now in 5 games. So we'll see. Obviously, this 5th game has just started. But Marchand just doing as great as he always has. Maybe last year was the aberration. Maybe he's also like Pastrnak. Maybe he doesn't need Bergeron either. But again, so early to tell. But I got to call it out that like people who drafted him in like the 5th, 6th round, wherever he was falling, right now it's looking like free money.
Yeah, Patty in the chat is our who we thank as a super supporter and our first ever patron every week at the end of the show. If you don't listen to the end of the credits, there you go. You need to know. But Patty in the chat is mentioning that Boston has played. She used her Boston accent to say soft. Is that good? Soft? I don't know. I can't. We'll need someone else to work on the
every time you make a joke, you don't have to do the self-deprecating.
I'm trying to sell it. I'm trying to
but
sell it.
But you're not. You did the thing at the start that I had to edit out.
Oh my gosh.
You tried to make the joke, the rocket, okay. Backed out. Now you're trying to make the soft
is
joke.
Mentioning, I was trying to do it right, and then I wasn't sure if I did it right. I thought aloud.
You don't have to always say, I don't know if I did it right. Just like do it and let other people tell you if you did it right.
I'd rather call myself out than let someone else do it. It's a protective self-defense mechanism. So Patty pointed out, Elon, that Boston
played some soft teams.
Yeah, Chicago, Nashville, San Jose, LA, now Anaheim, like all with questionable goaltending situation, except Nashville. But Nashville's just like maybe a questionable team situation, and so maybe that's something that's helped Pastrnak and helped Marchand early on. But Marchand like has also looked good so far. 5-on-5. Marchand has scored. He's had no assists. All right, he's been the goal scorer. He's scoring on 37.5% of his shots at 5-on-5. 3 goals on 8 shots for Marchand. Only 1 other goal has been scored while Marchand was on the ice at 5-on-5, and he did not assist on it. It seems like he's doing okay overall, to be honest. Elon, but I'm not about to do a victory lap and be like certain that he's gonna have another like 9,500 point pace season and that everything is all perfectly okay. So far, so good. And actually, Elon, I would kind of be tempted if I did have Marchand and I got him at a good draft position to maybe test the market and see if anybody was interested in taking a chance on him, just because like it's not out of the question that he could be great, but I'm also not completely sold that he's going to keep this up all season. He could still be like very well an 80, 90 point player, but that's below where he has been in the past. That's below what he's pacing for now. And maybe if you can sell him for what he's pacing for now, which is 98 points, maybe you can get a nice little return that's a little more certain for Marchand. You're muted. Did I say that right?
Yeah, there's a lot of players out there that have started the season really slow. And, you could probably get someone pretty good for Marchand at this point, like Timo Meyer, Ovechkin. Like, I don't know how panicking these managers are, but I agree with you, Brian. I think Patty's point really seals it. I didn't realize this, but yeah, it's easy to get goals and points against weak teams. Well, LA is a good team, but I know I'm sure you're like thinking
they're a good team, but their goaltending is shaky.
Suspect. Yeah, so we'll have to see. I definitely agree. Yeah, if you can sell Marchand now at the value, he's not going to do any better than how he's doing so far. It can only go down from here or stay the same. I should also mention, if you want to get exposure to Pasternak and exposure to Pasternak and Marchand right now, James Van Riemsdyk, who we kind of talked about getting top line deployment, then he was bumped. I was like, maybe forget about him. Now he's on the third line. I don't know what's going on with his deployment. 3 points and 3 straight for JVR. So seems like he's doing pretty well in Boston. We'll see if it can last. If you want to take a look, Brian, I wanted to ask you, we never followed up. You and I in our private chat, you were telling me how DeBrusk was dropped in your Cupful division, and you said you were thinking of putting a bid on him. And then in the end, you decided maybe you won't put a bid on him because of his deployment. How did that all work out? Like, did he end up getting claimed by you or by someone else? But so far, 4 games, no points for Jake DeBrusk. 10 shots is okay, like not amazing, 2.5 shots per game. What happened with DeBrusk in your Cupful division?
Well, the honest answer, Elon, is that I fell asleep before making the decision. And the last thing I had done was canceled my waiver bid just because I can't remember. There's some, but I wasn't sure that I wanted to go through with it. Anyway, my waiver bid was set for $50. And guess what? He went for exactly $50 to another team. And DeBrusk has that right wing eligibility. So there's this appeal about having him. Of course, the reason I canceled my bid on DeBrusk was because I was excited to see him available. And then I was like, oh, but he's playing nowhere in the lineup and on the second power play unit, and Van Riemsdyk is having success on the first. So what's the reason to really go that hard after DeBrusk? And the reason would be, he's just having a tough start. And then we heard he slept in, he was late for a team meeting.
Oh no.
Yeah. You don't do that.
Coaches hate that.
Can you imagine if you were late to a meeting at your job and your coach was like, just don't show up tomorrow, or your manager?
But would I get paid or do I not get paid?
DeBrusk is getting paid.
Oh, it's not that bad.
But you love your job so much.
Yeah.
I'm sure he wants to play.
Yeah, no, of course. No, I mean, it's crazy. Well, I guess if you know it's so important, how do you miss it?
Yeah, I know.
We all have phones with alarms. What happened? I'd be curious to know his story. Is it like a Seinfeld thing? He got the AM PM wrong or something?
I don't know, but there always has been this little personality thing with DeBrusk that's never come out publicly through any media channels, but it's always been the subtext for him never really getting a shot. Coaches have never been enamored with him. So I don't know if he's clearly got to work himself out of the doghouse now. Do I regret not taking a shot on him? A little bit, but also I don't have many other streaming spots available in my roster right now. So I don't know how long I would have been willing to wait on DeBrusk. And after being scratched for a game and now he has to work, because we'll see what happens next with DeBrusk. But it's a weird situation and very disappointing for anyone. I was sort of targeting him in my draft, but I didn't get him. And phew, I feel at this point I dodged a bit of a bullet.
You definitely did. I mean, he might be good later, but you could have gotten him for free if you would have stayed awake and put in that bid. But I don't think you made a mistake not bidding on him, because if he's not on the top power play, this is a team that doesn't even have Bergeron. JVR and Pavel Zacha are ahead of him on the power play depth chart. What is he Nick Ehlers here? So I don't know if I would be too excited about DeBrusk at this point. I think that the person who bid 50 might start considering dropping him at some point soon, unless they're very patient. Brian, we still have a lot of teams to get to, but I think this is a good place to stop down to end part 1 of this episode. So for everyone listening, curious to get to the rest of the teams, the rest of this list where we're barely through it, you should already have it downloaded if you're subscribed to Keeping Karlsson on Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts. I use I use Pocket Cast. Great app. So yeah, make sure you're subscribed. Get the shows. We'll be back soon. Brian, any last words before we switch over to part 2 here?
I'm in the mood for podcasting. Hey, how about you?
Beautiful.
I'm in the mood for podcasting. Here comes part 2.
Ah, love it. See you later.
That's it.
Bye, everyone.
All right.
Yes. Okay. Okay. It is.
You should come in like Krusty the Clown.
Hey,
kids.
Oh, that was good. You should. Okay. It's 9:16 p.m. Sunday, October 22nd. There is a Bruins game currently on against the Anaheim Ducks. And just taking a look at the scoreboard, 0-0 with 1:11 left. We're here recording an episode of Keeping Karlsson where we're going through the couple leading scores per team. We've gotten as far as David Pastrnak and Brian. It's time to keep going through all the rest of them for part 2 of this mega episode. So excited to hear all the rest of your deep dives that you did. I had a really fun time in part 1. What did we cover? Like 8 of the 32 teams?
Yeah, I think we might stay in the shallow end for most of part 2, just in the interest of getting through. But don't worry, when there's something interesting to share, I will share it.
Perfect. Yeah. You could always just tell us in the end, like, I did a lot of research, he's good. Or I did a lot of research, he's bad. And then you could save it.
Could you imagine if we did a whole show that way?
Yeah, if the patrons are interested in seeing your work, you can share it on the Discord or something. KeepingKarlsson.com/patron to get Brian's homework, or his notes that go along with. Yeah. All right. So let's go. Actually, we already shared the notes. You can already see the notes if you're a patron. So yeah, a little perk. One of many that we try to give for just $5 a month. So there, we put that out of the way now. So now we can focus on the teams. Brian, let's go next to the next leading scorers. We did Pastrnak. Next up, Leon Draisaitl. So we already talked about McDavid injured and the impact of that. So we can just keep going to the next leading scorer, who is Nathan MacKinnon. No big surprise there. The big surprise is maybe you had to wait so long for us to get to him. But still, obviously having a really good season. Things are going crazy in Colorado with these lines. Every day it's changing. There's no point really diving in. I'll just give the current update. The whole Drouin thing, that's over. He's like Connor Brown. He's done. So drop him, obviously. Lately, Tomas Tatar got a shot on the top line with Nichushkin and MacKinnon. So that happened for a bit. Tomas Tatar got a shot on the top line with MacKinnon and Rantanen for a little bit. Then they made another change. I see that we got some practice lines just today in Colorado. So the latest update is MacKinnon and Rantanen are split, and they're going with MacKinnon, Nichushkin, and Lehkonen, and then Rantanen with Ryan Johansson and Tomas Tatar. So I don't know. I'm not worried. You might look at that right away. Shams was saying, I think it was Shams in our group chat for short shifts, maybe not great for Rantanen. I'm not going to worry about Rantanen, kind of like Pastrnak. I just feel like he'll be fine no matter what. And again, this is going to change a million times. But obviously nice for someone like a Nichushkin and Lehkonen to get that upgrade to play with MacKinnon. As far as the power play goes, it's been really good. And Arturi Lehkonen has really benefited from that. He had a goal and 3 assists versus Carolina in that last game. 3 of those 4 points were on the power play. Lehkonen also points in his previous 2. Ryan Johansson had a slow start, but he's starting to really benefit from being on that top power play. 3 power play points in his last 2 games. And then even not on the top power play, Valery Nichushkin is finding a way to get points. He has points in 4 straight. So everyone's good. You could jump on Tatar if you want. I wouldn't. Yeah, that maybe Brian, actually one random player I'll throw at you, since I don't even know how much conversation to have about these others. I am curious about Nichushkin, I should just say, not on the top power play. I wonder if he gets there eventually, or if we're going to need him to have the season Carter Verhaeghe had last year of just dominating at even strength. But the player I want to, so one no-name guy doing well, Logan O'Connor. You can tell me if there's anything there. He has goals in 3 straight. And then the player not doing well that I think people are wondering about, Bowen Byram. He had an assist yesterday, which is good. That's his only point in 5 games. He's getting really low time on ice lately. Is it time to drop Bowen Byram in your one-year leagues?
Yeah, it is. The time to roster Bowen Byram is if it's a short-term stream or if Makar is injured. And so if you're not satisfying either of those conditions, you can just sort of put him aside and forget it. He's shooting a little less than usual. While he's on the ice, though, Colorado's only scoring on 6% of their shots at 5-on-5. So maybe that's impacting Byram just a smidge. But my previous rule still stands. Makar injured, get Byram short-term stream. You could try Byram. Otherwise, Like it's like the Owen Power edit, Elon.
Yeah. Okay. So one day he should be incredible. Just not enough room on this team for every defenseman to do it. It's not Carolina. You can't get the Slavins and the Shays getting points on every team. Let's go next to the next player on the list here. So we get McKinnon. Next up, Jack Eichel. Keeping up what he was doing in the playoffs there. He's got a point in every game except for one. And in that one game where he didn't point against Dallas, he had 8 shots. Also, I should mention Vegas is keeping up what they did in the playoffs because they've won every single game this season. They're 6-0 right now. So they're definitely looking like a team that's once again going to be one of the top contenders to repeat. So it'll be fun to see how that plays out. In the meantime, the goalies, I think that's one of the big headlines. Obviously, they've won all their games. 4 games for Hill, 2 for Thompson. All the games have been incredible. Really high save percentages. So I think this is one of in your categories league, especially, this is probably like Boston last year. Like even if you have the guy that's not playing like, over 50%, maybe Hill's going to play like 55% and Thompson will play 45%, whatever it is. Like it seems like every game Thompson plays, he's gonna have a really good chance of winning with a good save percentage. So he's probably worth it. In Cupful, it gets a little dicey, but you get a lot of points in those games. And then the player I want to throw to that might be available to people is William Karlsson, who has 4 points in his last 3 games, very low rostered percentage. So curious to get your take on if, like, we know obviously Eichel is going to keep it up. Marchessault is looking good. Like all the big names that you'd expect to be good are good. Curious what you think about old William Karlsson after his awesome speech after winning the Cup. Is he going to carry that through to a big season?
Old Wild Bill, the former 40 goal scorer, has some juice in him early this season. But the shots are still the same as always. So, Elon, my short answer is no. And I'm trying to, like I said, stay in the shallow end here. Karlsson's ice time is also down a couple minutes a night this season. And that's almost all at 5-on-5. I honestly, I think that's about all I really need to say. Like, he has 2 goals in 6 games. Last season, Karlsson had 14 goals in 82. The season before, 12 goals in 67. The season before, 14 and like you can see the trend here. William Karlsson is like a 15-ish goal scorer, and it's really lovely that he's picked up 2 goals in his last 3 on 6 shots. But Elon, outside that, there's nothing that really turns my crank for William Karlsson.
Okay, that's fair. So just a streamer. Let's go next to the next player on the list, who is Travis Konechny over on Philly. 42 couple points in only 5 games. We talked about him, I believe, last week and how he's been immune. Whatever Tortorella wants to do, Konechny just keeps scoring goals. He's having such an incredible season, so it'll be fun to see if he can keep that up. 2 goals in that game against Dallas. Most recently, he's been playing on a line with Scott Laughton, and Scott Laughton is benefiting. He's a guy, every once in a while goes off, and right now he has 4 assists in 5 games. He's assisting on all these Konechny goals, and Laughton, though, isn't not shooting. It's not, he's just passing. We're looking at right now 19 shots in 5 games for Scott Laughton. So I think we're getting to a point where, first of all, Konechny seems like a big enough of a stud that we can start recommending players just because they're playing with Konechny. And then we've got Scott Laughton with all those shots. So the other guy on the line, by the way, has been Tyson Forster, a fun rookie. But yeah, he hasn't been having as much success. So I think in a deeper league, like a Cupful, if Scott Laughton's out there, he's becoming more and more interesting by the day, as long as he's going to stick with Konechny, in my opinion.
Yeah, what's fun about Laughton is that his shot rates have gone way up. Like his shot on goals per 60 minutes is doubled, except he has no goals to show for it through 5 games, nothing on 19 shots. But yeah, approaching 4 shots per game. In 4 of 5 outings, Laughton has had 4 or more shots. So that's a pretty good reason to like him. Curiously, Laughton has also lost some ice time compared to last season. He's down 90 seconds per night, which is maybe one reason why those shot rates are up. He's just doing a lot with less. But so long as he stays with Konechny, Elon, he's going to be on the ice for a bunch of goals. And yeah, I'm interested. Konechny, by the way, 5 goals in 5 games so far, to add to 2 assists, 115-point pace early on because of 7 points in 5 games. Konechny has 2 shorties already, and a power play goal. So 3 of those 5 goals that Konechny has scored has come at uneven strengths, which is a fun way to do it. And it doesn't mean it's a sustainable way, but it's a fun way, especially if your league has those shorthanded categories or bonuses for points. This is one thing I really enjoy about the NHL these days, like this up and coming power kill kind of situation, which I talk about a lot, which we talked about way back on I don't need to go back. Shoot, I'm blanking on the name of our guest, but she was amazing. Like she was in early on collecting data on it. Maybe her name will come to me at some point later. So yeah, great stuff. Travis Konechny, Scott Laughton, Tyson Forster is a fun one, Elon, but I don't know, like, maybe a stream. And like you said, based on just playing with Konechny, and Konechny has been a guy that you would look to someone he's playing with as someone who might be able to get you a point at a crucial moment in your matchup. And so that's a reason to look at Konechny's line mates. He has attained that status.
Yeah. And then if you drafted Owen Tippett and then were disappointed, but then decided to hold on because you spent such a high pick on him, looking a little better in his last couple games, had 2 assists against Edmonton and then no points, but 7 shots against Dallas. So hopefully this means things are starting to turn around for Owen Tippett. Brian, on defense, we had a couple people, Trev and Wolfie, wanted us to talk about Sanheim. He's got 4 assists in 5 games, just like Scott Laughton does. Obviously, it's more impressive when it comes from a defenseman. It seems like Sanheim is the clear like top D man in terms of like overall time. Like Cam York gets more power play time, but Sanheim gets some. We said I said last week, I think, like, take a look at Sanheim. You might want to grab him. I still stand by it. Seems like Tortorella likes him the best, and he's going to get a lot of ice time. And yeah, I don't know. That's all there is really to say about it. Like, I don't think he's like incredible, but I think Sanheim seems like solid enough that he's worth holding in a deeper league if you need D. Like, so definitely take a look and see.
I blew it. Like, I had Cam Fowler as a 4th D, and like, this was like Minchukov like hadn't yet taken the power play spot. Drysdale was still out, and I was like, oh yeah, like, I'm happy with that. And in the meantime, I was snoozing, like, and Sanheim got picked up, and I missed out. So I would rather take a chance on Sanheim and see what happens, who has now played 27 and 28 and a half minutes in his last 2 matchups, which is like that. Those are big minutes, and in those big minutes, you hope some peripherals and points come, even in Philly. And so far, yeah, makes a nice. I don't know that Sanheim is going to be like a lock them down, hold them all season. So keep a close eye on whether or not Sanheim's actually helping you. But for the moment, as your bottom like slot defenseman, your Cam Fowler replacement, yeah, I like Travis Sanheim.
Mm-hmm. And then I'll throw a really deep name for people like Sean Walker, who was on LA before. He's looking really good. He has goals in 2 straight, and he's been also playing really big minutes. Obviously, that's not going to keep up the goals, but if you're in a super deep league, there's a guy that's getting big minutes, getting some production. Okay, Brian, let's go next to the next player here on this list. So we pass Konechny, then comes Rantanen. We've already talked about Colorado. Then we get Elias Pettersson over on Vancouver. Also, like, just continuing with the success he had at the end of last year. We're definitely at a point where you want anyone playing with Pettersson, and he's got a new line mate because Ilya Mikheyev is back in the lineup. So goodbye, Connor Garland. Hello, Ilya Mikheyev, to play with Pettersson and Kuzmenko, and a nice return. He was right on the top line. Like I said, had an assist, 4 shots in that 5-3 win over Florida. So I assume after a win, Mikheyev's going to stick on that top line. We like it better than Connor Garland. I don't even need to ask you that. The question is just, is Mikheyev good enough to add to your fantasy team just because of this top line deployment? He had some good runs last year when he wasn't hurt.
Yeah. And he's the sort of guy who you add to your roster while he's on the top line and you drop him when he's off it. It was the same thing in Toronto, right? Like, oh yeah, like, he's in a good spot. Mikheyev has shown that he can produce and do stuff when he has good deployment, but when he doesn't, he's not going to turn the tides for a specific line or do a whole lot on his own. So those are that's the Mikheyev warning. Nice stream when he's on the top line and an immediate drop when he's not. By the way, our the person whose work I was referring to, her name is Megan Hall. Thanks to Lewis in the chat for helping me remember, who's now like doing some cool stuff. You can at Megan with an H, Emma Hall on Twitter. And
she, what you said, was doing research into shorthanded like power kills.
Yeah, how shorthanded. And this was like, I want to say 4 years ago now, like 3 or 4 years ago, how the data was showing teams taking greater risks shorthanded and how it was giving them an edge.
Oh, we should get her back. Okay. Anyways, we got to move on. No time to start booking future shows. Let's go to the Pittsburgh Penguins because, Brian, you're obviously happy to see next on the list here is Evgeny Malkin, who's had such a great start to the season. Goals in 4 straight now. Would it be too rude to be like, is he going to keep this up? Like, maybe this is a great opportunity, Brian, to try to now sell Malkin before he either gets injured or slows down, or are you just going to stick with, you don't even have to answer if you don't want to, because obviously you got
that's okay. Like Malkin has 4 goals.
He's awesome.
on 20 shots. So he's shooting 20%. And in his career, he's been all over the place, but in 2 of the last 3 seasons, Malkin's only shot 10%. But in 2 of the last 3 seasons, or in one of those seasons, he's missed time. But what seasons hasn't he missed time? It's really hard to ever really get a hold on what to expect from Malkin. 20% is, of course, a little too high. But I like the early returns. Like Malkin is paced for just a smidge over a point per game for 2 consecutive seasons coming into this one. So I don't see why he wouldn't this time. And one neat little trick he's added to his game so far is shooting a little more often, averaging 4 shots per game versus his usual 3. He's sort of like he started strong and now he's petering out, just 5 shots over his last 2 games. But I'm pretty excited about, well, obviously, you just hope that Malkin can stay healthy, but I don't see any reason why not to expect another point per game season. And if he keeps shooting as much as he does, you can probably expect a little more.
Yeah, for sure. Penguins definitely need him to stay healthy and also some more things to happen because it's not going so well so far. They've lost 2 straight now. Erik Karlsson not having the season he had last year so far. He had 1 really good game. Aside from that, not too much. So that's all I want to say about that. Let's move on to Minnesota now, because after Malkin, we get Seth Jarvis next on the list. We already talked about him in Carolina, then JT Miller, then Alex DeBrincat. Then we get to a new team here, Joel Eriksson Ek. It's not Kaprizov. It's Joel Eriksson Ek who has the most points so far. He's having a monster season. Like, what a beast. 7 points in 5 games, along with like hits. He had a 7-hit game. Like, this is like 4 goals. This is like last year was great for Joel Eriksson Ek, but it looks like this year could be an even bigger breakout. He's been doing this recently without Matt Boldy on his line. So yeah, anyone who drafted him, I had a chance to draft him at one point and didn't, definitely was like considering it, and I should have, right? He's great, and I think he's having his big breakout. I wonder how high he's going to go. I wouldn't be surprised to see him be like 75, 80 points. Brian, I don't know if you're going to raise your eyebrow at that.
No.
Yeah, there you go. We love Joel Eriksson Ek here, especially in your bangers leagues, man. So with Boldy out, it's been Marcus Johansson jumping on the top power play. So it was Johansson and Boldy and Eriksson Ek on that second line. So obviously Boldy is gone. Do we care? Oh, yeah, I guess anyone playing with Joel Eriksson Ek at this point, you'd think you'd care about. It's been him, Marcus Johansson, and Pat Maroon, who I realized was on the team when I was doing Matchup Maximizer yesterday. So yeah, he's getting some pretty good deployment. Not going to recommend him though. Marcus Johansson on that top power play, he got 3 points in the last game. Well, no, 2 points in the last game and 1 point the game before. So 3 points in the last 2 games. None of them even on the power play. So he's just getting, benefiting from the JEEK even strength exposure. And you got to think at some point that power play is going to hit and Marcus Johansson will get a point. So with Minnesota playing 4 times next week, I'm not saying this is a season-long thing, but I think he's a good guy to grab right now in anticipation.
Yeah, I'm with you. And Marcus Johansson, I think, Elon, remind me, I think, and this isn't to rub anything in, but you had him as somebody who like finished last season really strong when he came to Minnesota. And you're like, could he keep doing that? And through the first 3 games, he hadn't done much. Now with 3 points in his last 2 games, we're taking a bit of a fresh look at Marcus Johansson and his better deployment. The thing, it just hurts when he doesn't get the point, right? He has 4 shots. No, he has 5 shots in 5 games total. So it's points or bust for Johansson, but he did have a really, really prosperous stretch in Minnesota after they acquired him late in the season from Washington. So this reopens the possibility, Elon, that he can find that part of his game again. Also, just a little fact check. I'm being corrected in the chat. I'm not sure, I don't remember what I said. But I must have gotten something wrong about Malkin. Malkin played 82 games last year, but in neither of the 2 previous years did he play 82 games. And for that matter, going way back to the start of his career, he's only done it a couple times.
Okay. I feel like the more we talk about Malkin's game played, the more we're jinxing him. So we should probably not mention him anymore and just let him do his thing. Brian, next up on the list after Eriksson Ek, we get Brock Besser. What a great season he's having. We didn't even mention him on Vancouver because we've already talked about him enough. But definitely, obviously, you want him if he's still available. He's slowly becoming taken in most leagues. Next up, we go to your Ottawa Senators, Brian. Brady Tkachuk. We had Dom on the show. He had a lot of great projections. He was a little bit concerned about all the power plays Ottawa got, and maybe that would bring Brady down a little bit. So far, not hurting him at all. He's got 2 power play points, also a ton of even strength points, gets up to 6 points in 5 games for Tkachuk, along with, of course, all those shots. He had 5 hits in that loss to Detroit. So I guess, he got mad that they were losing. So he decided to throw the body a little bit more. But yeah, great start to the season for Brady. He's obviously on the top line. Of course, the big news out of Ottawa last week is Josh Norris returning. He had that big 2-goal game in his first return. Then he had, sorry, I don't have this in front. I wrote something weird in the notes. Sorry. We were on a roll of no edit times for so long. And then I blew it. Okay. Big news, of course, Ottawa. The return of, wait, okay. Sorry. Now I got it. The return of Josh Norris, 2 goals in his return game versus Washington after missing the whole start of the season. We didn't even know if he was going to, but I was like of the mind, like maybe he's going to go on LTIR at some point and have another surgery, but so far so good. Obviously, I don't know how much out of the woods we are at this point with Josh Norris on this shoulder, but 2 games, 2 goals in the first game, an assist versus Detroit, 4 shots, like taking a lot of shots. And Norris was never like a huge shooter. So, he's someone that you probably got super late in your draft if you got him. And right now you're definitely happy to have taken that chance. We'll see how it works out. Obviously very good for Drake Batherson, who had a really slow start to the year. I think he's going to benefit from playing with Josh Norris. Tarasenko looking really good, at least before the Detroit game. He was starting to get a lot of points, and I know there was a little bit of nervousness about all the money the Sens spent on him, and now they can't sign Shane Pinto, but Tarasenko making it look like maybe it wasn't a bad signing, even if it put them into this cap trouble. And then Brian, tell me if this is a hot take or not, but I feel pretty strongly Jake Sanderson is starting to run away as not only the top power play defenseman on the team, but also just the top fantasy defenseman on the team. I think in most leagues, you had Chychrun drafted first, then Shabbat, and then Sanderson like pretty late. But he's looking so good, Sanderson. And, as good as Shabbat and Chychrun are, I think Jake Sanderson, if he's going to stick on this top power play, and why not? Like, he's now got 6 points in 5 games. He's scored in 3 of the last 4 games. I guess 3 of the 5 games of the whole season. Sanderson is so great.
Yeah, he's great. But I was going to point out that he has scored 3 times in the last 5 games, and those 3 goals have come on 9 shots. 2 of them on the power play, which is like fun. And like that could happen for a defenseman, but still, like Jake Sanderson is shooting 33%, which is like roughly 8 times what we would expect a defenseman to shoot. So, but even, you take away his goals, and he would still have 3 assists in 5 games, which is nice. A couple shots a game. But Elon, like I'm curious that you said like the most fantasy relevant defenseman, just because like Sanderson is not like a category filler, right? Like there's not a lot of hits, there's not a lot of blocks, there's not a lot of shots. So you are counting on him pointing. And I just don't know, like with so many of his points coming from goals, and he's really just played 1 game on the top unit, like decisively. I'm not sure that I would buy in and say that Sanderson is the best option fantasy wise on Ottawa.
Okay, that's right. Yeah, we'll have to say. I was again trying to sort of be spicy here,
the
but
shock
I could see
jock.
it.
Yeah,
but honestly, I could see it. Like, and also the thing with someone this young is, he had 2 blocks in each of the last couple games. Maybe like those numbers are starting to go up as his ice time goes up. He had 4 shots in the last game. So again, this is all like, he's pretty new. I just think like, he last season's shot totals and block, like most players don't hit their peak of shots on goal in their rookie season. So there's probably a lot of room to grow. We'll see.
There's room for Jake Sanderson to grow. So he's 21 years old. It's his first full season, really, or second full season in the league. Sorry. So there's okay. Like I can get with that. I thought we were gonna. I just want to take a moment to lament Drake Batherson. He's my draft day regret right now.
Even now that Norris is back, though, you just don't have to worry about it anymore, I thought.
Well, so I sure hope so. Like that's what I'm gonna say. Batherson was playing with like nobody. Like I watch Ottawa and I can't even like think off the top of my head. Rourke, that's it. Rourke Chartier, yeah, and Matthew Joseph and Ridley Gregg, and like it was like a kind of Dominic Kubalik, Batherson's played the most time with this season, but like you can't like Kubalik's not a center. Like you need someone really there to glue. So I'm hoping, but Batherson's like numbers this year are sad. He's down 2 minutes of ice at 5-on-5 so far per night. His points participation's down, like, so that's some bad variance, but also he doesn't deserve any better. Like he's barely shooting. His shots per 60 is almost half of what it was last season. Like coming into the year, it was like Batherson got screwed last year. Like he should have done so much better than he did, and he still did all right. And this year, he's like, well, no, now I'm actually going to play like I deserve bad numbers. So I'm hoping that corrects soon, and I'm hoping Norris being back helps with that. So I don't know, Elon. Like part of me would say like there might be a buy low window on Batherson for you here, but I'm not even sure that I'd want to take advantage of it. I really don't like what I'm seeing, and I'm hoping it's all just for lack of a center. That would be a really good and legit explanation, and it's likely it is. So maybe you can kick tires on Batherson and see what he's worth. But I want to see something from him in soon. He's killing me.
Yeah, no, and those low shots, that's really frustrating for sure. He had 5 shots in his first game and then has disappeared since. So yeah, I think though, I don't think he's like drop worthy. So if you can get him really cheap right now, I'd take a shot and then hope that he and Norris do well. And he's still getting a lot of power play time. In net, by the way, in Ottawa, Anton Forsberg's been really good. So I think like we're at a point now where I don't know if we're ready to say like Forsberg's going to steal the job, but I can see this being 50-50 for a while. And eventually, Ottawa might make a decision. Korpisalo not as good, but very small sample sizes, of course. Let's go down that list. Let's keep going here. So we just talked about, who did we talk about? We were in Ottawa. Brady Tkachuk. Then there's Cale Makar. We've already talked about, okay, we talked about Colorado. Then Kotkaniemi. Then Jesper Bratt. We're getting into these duplicates here. Okay, next, Boone Jenner on the Columbus Blue Jackets. So we're going to have to go to Columbus next. What a great start to the year for Jenner. Obviously highlighted with that hat trick in the second game of the year versus the Rangers. Also scored
he was on my bench for that.
Well, sorry, Brian. In that game versus Minnesota yesterday,
he was on my bench. Had a goal. That.
He was on your bench for yesterday. 8 shots too.
I know.
In that game.
Killed me.
So, well, hey, but Brian, at least you can be happy that you have him. I'm 0-2. So you're going to be 0-2 now after this week?
No, I would have won if I hadn't had him on my bench last week. But this week, I also would have won last week if I wasn't podcasting because I forgot to use my last ad like I wanted to before the show, and then I got swept up. I guess that's on me, but that would have made the difference.
Right. The guy this week,
I'm gonna win even with.
Okay, so don't be sad about benching.
I'm not
Jenner.
sad. 1-1. I feel
right.
I feel okay. Yeah.
All right, better than me. But I feel great, and honestly, to me, that's a win. Now that I lost last year, I feel like I'm free. Like now I just need the listeners to not think I'm an idiot, but hopefully I've built up some goodwill. I don't know.
I think so.
There's a lot of new listeners that are only going to know about loser Elon. But okay. I thought Ovechkin would be a guy who scores goals. So kill me. I thought Erik Karlsson was a
so kill points. Me is not the saying.
What is it? So shoot me?
No, so sue me.
So sue me.
Like what a horrible fate do you think you deserve because you drafted Ovechkin?
What's the quote from like the meme with Seth? What's his name?
Are you thinking of David Spade's like sitcom from the 90s? Just shoot me.
Okay, no, there's no. Oh, I'm thinking F me, not kill me or shoot me. Okay, like F me, right? Like I thought that Ovechkin would be good. F me, right? Okay. Anyway.
Okay.
So Boone Jenner's been good, a lot of points. He's been so Laine is hurt, so Jenner has been getting some good deployment. Well, it wouldn't matter anyways. He's been playing with Gaudreau and Marchenko. I don't know. There's not too much to say here, even with Laine hurt. I guess we can talk about Roslovic. Had a good game, a goal and 8 shots in the 5-4 win over Minnesota. So we'll see. Like Roslovic always does this, and then we talk about him, and then he becomes nothing again. So I kind of don't want to fall into this trap. But yeah, with Laine out, it looks like he's getting a boost in deployment. Hopefully Laine's not hurt for long. He took that hit from Rasmus Anderson late in the game that led to a 4-game suspension for Anderson. Werenski is back from his injury and has 3 points in 2 games. So if anyone bought low, I think Lewis was saying on short shifts, like if people are thinking that he's like a Band-Aid boy now, like now's your chance to pounce. So yeah, that's worked out so far. Brian, what do you think about Marchenko, actually? That's the question I really want to ask you here, because he's getting this great deployment, top power play, seems like top line, but not really doing anything. And, he's someone that was just like, I picked him out of free agency. I spent a lot of fab on him, but I'm not going to be tied to him just because of that. I love the deployment, but I do not love the 3 assists in 5 games. And especially because those 3 assists came in the first 2 games. And after that, he's pointless in 3. So how much longer would you be holding on to Marchenko if he's at least getting this deployment?
Yeah, the deployment's good. And the shots are good. Like he's got 15 shots over 5 games. So even like an NHLer would score once on those shots. And Marchenko's points participation is down at 5-on-5. It's only 50% when we'd expect better. His on it, like, and that's with an elevated on ice shooting percentage too. So he's just not getting in on stuff, but his shot rates are good. His expected goals rates are good, both at 5-on-5 and on the power play. On the power play, Marchenko, has yet to get a point, even though he's been on the ice for a single goal scored, but that's because Columbus has only scored on 5.5% of the shots that they've taken on the power play. So I think there's more to come from Marchenko, and if you drop him now, like, you could be justified, and I don't know anyone would rush to pick him up, but I wouldn't let him go too far, because I think we could be on the verge of a breakout that we would be hoping for, with all the pieces are there, Elon, except the stuff showing up on the score sheet. So I have faith that Marchenko has more to offer than what we've seen from him in his boxcars so far. Also, you just glossed over Patrik Laine really quickly, and I think it's worth mentioning triple eligible Patrik Laine, right? He looks like he's sticking at center, which I don't know if it's great for his fantasy value or not. I'd rather he have like a really great center, or like someone solid like Boone Jenner, who can feed him and like support the line. And now Laine is being asked to do that with Fantilli and Texier. So he's being asked to not just center a line, but center a line with two guys who probably need some help working through it. I'd rather like see Texier at center, honestly, for Laine's fantasy value. And it sounds like the experiment is going to continue. It's turning into less of an experiment and more a fixture, which is a bit of a bummer for me. That's not what I picked Patrik Laine for, but we'll see how that situation evolves.
Yeah, well, right now he'll take his little vacation on the IR. Hopefully he'll be back soon. And then, yeah, definitely I'm hoping for more from Laine as well. I picked him also. Brian, let's take a break here, and then we'll come back and finish this list. Maybe we'll take even one more break. We've got a lot to get to, but we'll take this one now. Bye. All right, we are back, Brian, going through this list of a couple leading point scorers. We just passed Boone Jenner. We're now on to Artemi Panarin, our first New York Rangers. So we could stop down here on the Rangers. Panarin has been really good. Like, he has a point every game this season, mostly assists, but then he had 2 goals in this win over Seattle and 5 shots. Actually, Panarin has had a lot of shots. If you look at his game log, you have 5 or 4 shots in each of his last 4 games. Panarin not generally so great for the shots. He's just generally just gets you a lot of points, and that's what makes him good, but he's having a really great season so far. And yeah, maybe even better than people expect. Like, he was great last year as well, but I really like these increased shots. That'll be something fun to see if he can keep up. Of course, the big excitement going into the year was Filip Chytil getting onto that line with Panarin when he's generally been a bottom sixer. And you know what? Chytil was not really doing too much. I picked him up in one league and then I dropped him. And then yesterday, of course, he had 3 assists, and he's in free agency. And I'm sure for a lot of people he's in free agency because he's someone, that has been slow until now. Do you think it's time to jump back on Filip Chytil if he was dropped? Because he is centering Panarin, which we've been waiting forever for. We've been waiting years for this to happen. It's finally happening. He just had a great game. Do you think this is the start of something, or do you think it's going to be a lot of hot and cold throughout the season?
Yeah, I think I'm going to say it's going to be hot. It's a very frustrating answer that I have for you, which is that it's going to be hot and cold through the season until it's not. I think there will be a moment where Filip Chytil sort of takes off and maybe has a season that's comparable to, say, what Martin Necas has, right? Last year, a 71-point pace and rosterable with a couple stretches where you're like, oh, what exactly is this guy doing? But I'm hoping that that's what Filip Chytil can be eventually. And I think he's just working on the consistency piece of it. Also, deployment does make it a big difference. He's just started on the second line, so I think we need to give him time. That second winger has also changed a couple times. So in the last game, it was Lafreniere. So I think it'll take time to figure out, but it is a promising sign that Chytil saw 19 minutes of ice in the most recent game, and that was thanks to a big bump at 5-on-5. And with those 19 minutes, he took 5 shots. So that's something you like to see. It's not something we've seen Chytil do a whole lot in his career, but as his shot rates slowly creep up over the last few seasons, I'm hoping that they will eventually continue creeping up and hold at a nice spot that makes him consistently rosterable. It's hard to believe, Elon. So Chytil's just turned 24. Do you know that this is already his 6th NHL season?
Oh, so he started as an 18-year-old.
Yeah. So so I think keeping that in the back of your head and being oh, instead of oh, this guy's been around and he's never really come out of it, just to do the little age check and be yes, we have a lot of data of Chytil being mostly a non-factor, but we're entering a new moment where he is entering his peak years. He's got great deployment and he's starting to shoot the puck more. So all of these are reasons. And by the way, he hasn't scored yet on 13 shots, which we would have expected he could. I had Etel earlier in the year, and I'm like, oh, did I find myself a season-long hold? I've dropped him since, but I think at some point this year, he is going to be an ad and a season-long hold. I'm just not sure exactly when that moment's going to be.
Right. Yeah. So I guess maybe a lot of people are going to be kind of playing chicken with each other to try to get him at the right time. By the way, I'll just mention, we don't need to dive into it. I've officially removed Blake Wheeler from my watch list. So I had him at the start of the year.
Stone cold.
Not even watching him. I don't care. He's done. He's cooked. Okay. Let's go continue on this list. Panarin. Okay. Then's McDavid. That took a while, but he's only played 5, but he's played 5 games. Yeah, like I said, Brian.
Yeah, it's the shots. The shots of he went really quiet with shots, and his well, we went over it already.
We did it. All right. So next, Evan Rodriguez, Tim Stützle, Brandon Hagel. We talked about them. Okay, keep on going. Art Lehkonen, Elias Lindholm. There we go. Or is it Elias? Elias Lindholm over on the Calgary Flames. It's Elias Pettersson and Elias Lindholm. Very confusing. But whatever, we're professionals, so we can do this. The Flames just got stomped by Detroit, like a lot of teams have. Lindholm had himself not a great game, couple-wise, only a hit, almost a cardio session, but he did throw one hit to give him the big old 0.25. Hopefully people who weren't depending on him for a Sunday savior, because he did not come through. Calgary, these lines are kind of like really hard to pinpoint. You've got Huberdeau and Kadri together now, playing with Dylan Dubé. This is in today's game against Detroit. I'd imagine that it'll change after this loss. Lindholm with Ruzicka and Matt Coronado. Backlund with Coleman and Mangiapane. So we're back again to like Mangiapane being wherever low in the lineup. Top power play, Coronado's still there. But at this point, I don't know. Not a lot to be excited about in Calgary. I feel like you've got your guys. You've got your Huberdeau, Kadri, and Lindholm that I guess you still hold. Rasmus Anderson is suspended now, so I guess Noah Hannafin got a lot of power play time, so he's a grab for now. But yeah, I don't really have anything exciting to bring. I think like most of these players are going to do what they did last year. Like everyone was thinking like, oh, now with the new coach, Huberdeau and Kadri are really going to like bounce back. Like I don't think it's going to be that different, to be honest. Maybe a little better for Huberdeau just because of how bad he was, but I don't think it's going to be that great.
You're losing faith early. I know. And like we didn't know what to make of this Calgary team. A lot of folks were writing them off, but also saying like, hey, we thought they'd be good last year and they don't look so different. So why can't they figure it out this year? And so far they are they're not figuring it out this year. The Flames have scored just I lost the number. The Flames have scored 14 times in their first 5 games. So it's like not a terrible amount. It's not a world-beating amount, but it also doesn't mean they're not scoring at all. It's like a mid-pack number. And I'm just looking at their expected number, and it's also mid-pack for expected goals. They're shooting 8% at 5-on-5. Nope. They're shooting 6.5% at 5-on-5. And maybe that's it. Like, so maybe we should be expecting a little more out of Calgary, but you're right, Elon. Like every time I look at these lines, I'm just like, where's the beef? Like, what am I, there's teams where when I look at their last game lines on Frozen Tools or the practice lines at Game Day Tweets, it's like my eyes are trained. Like I know which guys to look around to find the guys that I might want to add to my roster. In Calgary, like my eyes just like keep circling up and down on all the 4 lines, and they never really settle anywhere. Maybe because these other guys like Dylan, we've seen Dubé and Ruzicka and Coronado and Coleman and Mangiapane, like all these guys do like nothing in places. So to answer your question, which I think was just, is there anybody here to be excited about on Calgary? I'm gonna go with still no. That's it. Yep. That's the short and the long answer.
Sorry, Flames fans. Okay, next up, let's go to Nashville. I don't have too much to say about what's going on there. Kind of same old as last week. Tommy Novak had a big game, a couple goals. He's such a revelation as someone who was a nobody at this time last year. A guy that we talked about, I think it was in the preseason or right away, Samuel Fagemo, who got claimed off of waivers from the, he was dropped by LA, and we thought maybe he could be something. Then he was scratched every game until he finally got in the lineup. He scored a goal. So for those of your super deep leagues or dynasty, like I don't know if he's gonna now be scratched again for a while. It was a goal, but he took 4 shots. I don't know. He got some power play time. It looks like 45% of the power play time. So maybe someone to watch. I'm not saying he's the next Tommy Novak or anything, but seems like he's a goal scorer. Like that's what everything that I read about Fagemo, like in scouting reports. It's like maybe he's like, I don't know if he has defensive deficiencies. I don't know why he has had so much trouble breaking into the league, but he's a goal scorer, scored a goal. So we'll wait and see. But obviously, there's a lot of guys on Nashville you want ahead of Fagemo. I just wanted to mention him.
Yeah, and I think we've done our job by mentioning him. He 50th overall pick back in 2019, but has not like had a record of dominance in North America at all. Like his AHL numbers are like and his NHL numbers are low because he hasn't really been able to make a convincing case that he should get a shot. For context, he's picked about 10 spots after Niels Hoglander, and I'm looking for the next relevant player picked behind Fagemo. Ooh,
okay. Well, while you're looking,
Matthias Michelli, 98th overall, almost 50 picks later. Yeah.
I should mention actually the reason why we're on Nashville is because of Philip Forsberg, who's next on the list after Lindholm. So yeah, Forsberg not having the most incredible season yet. He's got 5 points in 6 games, enough to lead Nashville in scoring in a couple points. Though he does only have 1 goal with like a lot of shots, like 5 shots last game, 6 shots a game before 4. Like, you know, so Forsberg's doing his job, but he's not putting it past the goalie. Bummer that he couldn't even get one past whoever was in net for San Jose, probably Blackwood in that game on Saturday, the 5-1 win. He took 5 shots, nothing went through. So I'd expect Forsberg is going to do a little bit better, right?
Yeah, me too. Like he has yet to score a goal at 5-on-5, even though like his shot rates are like kind of crazy right now. Like usually he's attempted like a high end around 18 shot attempts per hour, which is good. Like that, like I said, it's not the highest end, but it's high end. This season, he's averaging 25 shot attempts per hour, and this is at 5-on-5. Usually that's like a power play number, and his shot rates have gone up from 10 per 60 to 15 per 60 at 5-on-5, which is a huge jump. And it's crazy that he has nothing to show for it. His threat, like his expected goals have doubled because of all this extra shot volume. And they're not just like trash shots too, but he hasn't scored yet. His team has only scored, like the Predators have only scored on 4.5% of their shots at 5-on-5. So there is a lot of room for Philip Forsberg. Like for anybody who drafted him, it was like, yeah, like he's going to be the guy on Nashville. Don't worry. He is. Just a little snake bitten at the moment with no goals on 25-on-5 shots. And the Predators as a team have 2 goals on 44 shots with Forsberg on the ice. So hang in there. I think there are better times ahead, and early returns are still super promising for Forsberg. I'm really excited by what I'm seeing. And he's not a guy who has a history of exciting me. It's like, yeah, 70 points. That's cool. Like he'll do his thing. It won't be that exciting, but I'm loving it.
Okay. Let's continue down this list here of a couple of leading scorers. Next, we got Hyman, Hedman, Kaprizov. We've talked about all these teams. Marchand. We talked about Keller. Oh, there we are, Clayton Keller. So we're hitting Arizona here, and yeah, Keller having a great year. 3 goals and 3 assists in his 5 games, over a point per game. Exactly what people were hoping for when they drafted him. 6 shots in the last game, a 2-1 win over Anaheim. Arizona's, by the way, 3-2 now, so having a pretty good start to the season, including, of course, that win against New Jersey to start the whole thing off. So Jason Zucker is hurt, which isn't good for them, obviously, moving forward. I'd imagine this isn't good news for Logan Cooley, who I was excited about at the start of the year. He's kind of cooled off already, and now if Cooley doesn't have Zucker, that means that the line that Cooley's been centering is Matthias Michelli, and then I guess Kerfoot will be there. I don't know exactly what's going to happen. But yeah, so we still don't know what's going to happen with Zucker. But yeah, Cooley becomes a little less exciting, kind of like a Fantilli at this point, where though Fantilli is actually playing with better line mates, or at least he was when Line was healthy. Anyways, I'm just babbling here. The guys who we expected to be good, Keller, Schmaltz, Dursey, they're all clicking. Brian, the guy I want to ask you about, Barrett Hayton. Like, how is Schmaltz and Keller getting so many points? And then Barrett Hayton is with them at even strength and on the power play and has 0 points. Is this just bad luck? Is there a way to tease out if it's just like low IPP, like, you know, bad luck kind of thing? Or is he just like not involved? Is he just like kind of like standing there while everyone else does all the work?
There are some like fancy charts over at HockeyViz that will show like passing networks. And I'm still like working out exactly how, like, I haven't found them like a useful fantasy tool. So I haven't dedicated a whole lot of time to figuring out how to read them. If anyone else out there does, please feel free. But Hayton, as you mentioned, Elon, like just is not a participant in the points being scored. And actually, it's a really interesting note on Hayton's career that like most forwards, especially in the top 6, around 65-70% points participation. Hayton over the last 2 years, like 52%, which is strange And you wonder if it's a trend, a meaningful trend, or if he's just been unlucky for a couple of years. But now that he has not gotten in, he's been on the ice for 3 goals at 5-on-5, and that he hasn't gotten in on any of them. Is now the doubt starts to creep in about like, how involved is this guy? And overall,
and what about the power play?
Hayton's been on the ice in all situations for 8 goals and still has nothing on them. And all situations, again, should be in. A regular forward should be on like 65 to 70% of them. Hayton himself, based on his track record, he should have still been on at least 4 of them. So even if we're being unkind to Hayton and thinking that like there is something about him that makes him less of a participant than any other top 6 forward, we would still expect to have seen 4 points from Hayton by now. So
which would be great. That would be 4 points in 5 games.
This is a goodbye low moment is what I'm gathering from this conversation. I don't know if you're sold, but I am.
I mean, I have him. I guess I'm holding on. I figured I was. I guess the only thing to really be concerned about is he gets dropped from the line because they're like, let's put someone else here. But I guess everyone's doing so well that like maybe he's just a good luck charm for Keller and Schmaltz. I don't know. They're gonna be like, don't move him. I like him here. All right. So Brian, let's continue down the list here.
Hold on.
Oh,
sorry. Ooh. Yeah, I want to pump the brakes on that for a second, just to honor someone that, Elon, I don't know if we're taking him for granted or not, but Karl Vejmelka,
he's good.
Has been really freaking good this year. Elon, he's 898 as a rookie. All right, 2 years ago, and we were like happy with that because like there were some games where he was like amazing and then he sort of fell off. Last season, 899. All right. So, and we were like, oh, okay, you can't be the savior we hoped we would volume wise. This season so far, Vejmelka has stopped 98 of 103 shots he's faced for .951 save percentage, 3 for 3 quality starts. And a little fun fact for you, Elon. Vejmelka has yet to give up a goal at 5-on-5, batting a perfect 100. Isn't that something?
I mean, I've thought for a while that he might be one of these goalies that like could be like really good if he ever got a chance to play on a good team. Maybe we're finally starting to see him have that opportunity, and I think he could have a really good year.
There's 2 other goalies who've played so far this year. Although Reimer played today, did he give up a 5-on-5 goal?
You were going to say 2 other goals that haven't given up a 5-on-5 goal.
Yeah.
Let's see here. There's 2 goals by Calgary. Manjapani and Sharangovich both scored at 5-on-5.
Okay, so Reimer's out. So it leaves Vejmelka, who's played 3 games, and Sam Montembeault, who in 2 games has yet to give up a 5-on-5 goal. Interesting.
I just need to stop taking penalties, I guess. All right. So that's Arizona. Should we do? Okay, let's take our final break right now. And then we have like a whole bunch of teams. So we're going to have to go fast mode to end this up. But this has been a blast. I'm having a great time. See you all soon for the final bit, the 3rd period of part 2. I think generally the best. The 6th, we split these mega shows into 6 parts. Part 6 of 6 is always the clear best, right? Brian, how would you rank them?
I'd rank them 6, 1, 5, 3, 4, 2.
We should like come up with an order, like the Star Wars, and you should watch them in a different order. Like this is how you really should listen to the podcast to get the best experience. All right, we'll be back in just a sec. All right, Brian. So we're going down this list of a couple leading scorers. We just passed Clayton Keller. Next, we got Shea Theodore. We already talked about them with Eichel. Mark Scheifele. There we are. Boom. Winnipeg. Mark Scheifele finally gets Winnipeg on the board here. He's got 6 points in 5 games, having good point in every single game so far. I guess he's not higher because he hasn't taken too many shots, generally just 2 or 3 shots every single game, but still a great season. Scheifele is just the guy that like we always expect to be point per game. Last year, it fell off a little bit. I don't see any reason to not expect him to just go back to what he generally does. He'll end up with between 80 and 90 points if he stays healthy. We've got some injury, like Vilardi is injured. They already talked about it on short shifts, of course. 2 great shows this past week, including, by the way, debut performance from Derek, who did a really awesome job with Lewis. Woo-hoo. So thanks so much, Derek, for coming on, knocking out of the park. But yeah, so if we want to look at the Winnipeg lines with Vilardi out, so Scheifele, Connor, and Alex, I follow. So, okay, there's the name if you're in a super deep league. And actually, I follow is looking pretty good. He had 2 goals a couple games ago against Vegas, now an assist against Edmonton. We're up to 4 points in 5 games for I follow. So definitely this isn't like a long-term thing, but hey, if he's playing with Scheifele and Connor, that's a pretty good spot. So definitely add him to your watch list and then see if you could fit him in at some point. Brian, Connor Hellebuck finally had a good game. He had a really bad start to the year, but he made 38 saves in the 3-2 win over Edmonton. Hopefully this is the start of something for Hellebuck. We didn't put him in our tier 1 for a reason, because we had some concerns about Winnipeg, and obviously the start of the season justified that. I still think he's good. He's a lot better than he was to start the year. I think he'll be fine overall.
Yeah. I don't have anything, like, we don't really question Connor Hellebuck until he gives us reason to, which he hasn't yet.
Okay, so let's go now to the Anaheim Ducks, though I guess let's see how we get there. So where were we? Brady Shea, Kyle Connor, Sidney Crosby, and then Frank Vetrano, Brian, is the leading scorer for a couple points for Anaheim going into today's game.
On AM radio in Ottawa, like on the OSR 1200 or the team, whatever it's been called over the years. Now it's TSN 1200. But do you remember there's a shop in Ottawa called Frank DiNardo's Skis and Wheels?
Frank DiNardo's, I don't know that. No.
Oh, okay. There's a little jingle, Frank DiNardo's Skis, and so Frank Vetrano ticks that box for me. Yeah.
Maybe that could be a team name, Frank Vetrano's Skis and Wheels.
Oh, I wish.
And then you can take the logo of the business.
Yeah.
Then put Vetrano's face there. It's easy. But yeah, Vetrano had a hat trick in the second game of the year. He had a goal against Arizona, and that's been enough for him to be it's honestly saying more about the other players, because you would have hoped that you would have Terry or a Zegras, but no, it hasn't been such an exciting start to the year for the Ducks. They're playing Boston today. Pretty impressive that they have them at 0-0 in the middle of the game. Of course, the big name going into this week was Leo Karlsson, who came out of the IR, played. He scored a goal in his first game, top line, top power play. We sat down to record this show, and then we saw in the chat, someone was pointing out this complete nonsense. This
ridiculous.
Okay, here's the tweet from Eric Stevens. Leo Karlsson won't be in the Ducks lineup versus the Bruins. Will occasionally sit out in first half of season and not performance-based. As spelled out in my piece, GM Pat Verbeek has a plan to have him be a horse in the second half. So I get the plan is we have to bench him a bunch of times in the first half of the year so that in the second half he can play a lot.
Okay.
Like most NHL players just play all the games unless they're injured.
These coaches all get so cute. They think they're so cute doing all these
to me.
Like, yeah, come on. And like, I get it. Like, you know what, Elon, there is this like a part of me, and sorry, Verbeek's the GM. Like, so that's even weirder to me. It's like, oh yeah, we're gonna really manage this 18-year-old. We do talk about how rookies fall off towards the back end of the season. But my question is, who cares? I don't care. Should Anaheim care? Where are they going to be at the end of the season when Leo Karlsson's falling off? Nowhere.
Now he'll be a horse, but you got to have him on your fantasy team. Doesn't even get a day-to-day. He just won't play. And then you got to decide if you're going to hold him. He's really good. He's like pretty impressive. Second overall pick. He's getting top deployment when he plays. Might be a frustrating hold, though, if he's going to randomly get scratched. So I guess something to watch.
Yeah.
Mintyukov, by the way, has been on the top power play. He's another like rookie that's pretty exciting. I'll just throw his name out.
Yeah, no, that's going well. Mintyukov for sure. And like that makes everyone else, like every other defenseman, disposable. But like just go back to Leo Karlsson. Like very frustrating because he has a good spot in the lineup. And like I get sometimes where a coach is like, yeah, we're going to let him watch a couple game here and there from the press box. But if things are going well, and they have been, and not even just for Karlsson, but I feel like Zegras has been like a little better since Karlsson came along. Like it's not like there's somebody else in that position that's doing a great job of it. Like Zegras had 8 shots in his last game, and he had 5 shots total, Zegras, over 3 games before that. If you can't tell, I have Zegras on my Cupful roster. So I'm without words. This was silly. You're muted.
And Norm is saying in the chat, which is a really good point, that since Anaheim's a West Coast team, if you're in a league, where your lineups lock when the first game starts, like you might not even know until like the late games whether he's playing or not. How are you supposed to decide whether to put him in your lineup on a given day if they're only going to announce it? Right? Ridiculous. Okay. Anyways, Brian, we've got like 10 teams to go. About 10 minutes.
Need Pat Verbeek to share Leo Karlsson's Google Calendar with me.
Okay, we're gonna figure
ahead
this
of
out.
time.
Yeah. All right, Brian. So let's do a minute per team to finish this off here. Okay, this is the order. of the teams, the bottom 10 teams in top scores. Los Angeles Kings. Okay. So Pierre-Luc Dubois had a slow start. We talked about him on the show. You predicted that he'll do fine, and he had a really good week. So good for him. The big name that might be available to you, Trevor Moore, had 3 straight games with goals before doing nothing versus Boston. So I'll throw to you, Brian. Trevor Moore, any interest there? We've been kind of building up a little bit of a list of free agents that might be available that people should look at. So how does Moore stack up?
Yeah, Moore has been at times like a legit hold for a few weeks at a time. And so I still think like he possesses that potential. That's when he's been playing with Phil Deneau, which he still is. And right now, the third piece on that line is Kaliev. But right now, Moore has like those 4 goals that he has in 5 games have come on 14 shots. So that's just something that bears mentioning. So
but decent number of shots though.
29% shooting. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Like 3 shots per game basically for Trevor Moore. So if he keeps that up and has a point every so often, then he could be worthwhile to you. So it makes a good short-term stream that can sometimes turn into a long-term stream, but not someone to run out and get. And I don't think LA has anything special for a schedule next week.
Right. Yeah. So you'd have to really be able to squeeze him into some games. So maybe you could wait a little bit on Trevor Moore and see how he does in the next couple. Over to Montreal, Cole Caulfield having a great start to the year. Now 3 goals and 2 assists in 4 games after the big 1 goal, 1 assist game in the win over Washington yesterday. I mentioned a bunch of halves on Matchup Maximizer because they play 4 times next week, including Monday. Only 1 game tomorrow. Just Buffalo versus Montreal. So if you want to get a quick start to your week, grab a guy from that team. I was trying to decide who to even take from Montreal, aside from Suzuki and Caulfield. I mentioned some names like Monahan's on the top power play. You can grab someone on that second line, Newhook, Slavkovsky, like Josh Anderson. One name I didn't mention, I'll just point out Tanner Pearson. He has points in 3 straight games. He at least deserves a mention, even if Brian's about to cock his head.
No, I thought because I thought you were going in another direction because you still haven't mentioned the third piece, the third wheel on the first line, Raphael Harvey Pinard.
Oh yeah, there's always him. Yeah,
like he hasn't been doing much at all, like barely shooting, and like newly on the top line. So we'll see if it lasts. But he's not a bad 1 game option either.
Okay, and then they're going to be playing the Buffalo Sabres, who come up next on the list, way too low for anyone who drafted Tage Thompson and expecting Buffalo to be right at the top of this show. But unfortunately, no. And Buffalo's like changed up their lines big time. Now, Thompson is no longer centering Skinner and Tuck. Casey Middlestat has taken over as the center on that line, and Tage Thompson has been switched off to play with Dylan Cousins and Jordan Greenway. And hey, it worked out for a 3-1 win over the Islanders on Saturday. So maybe that's going to hold a little bit. I guess you could say, I mean, hopefully we don't have to worry about Tage Thompson. He had like 10 shots in this last game and a goal in the game before. So hopefully the breakout is coming soon. Hopefully we'll have a 10-shot game where like 4 of them go in like he did a couple times last year. In the meantime, I think great news for Cousins, of course, who's now both on, I'd call the Tage Thompson line the top line, even if it's like only 1/3 of what the top line used to be. But yeah, great spot for Cousins now, top line, top power play. Also probably really good for Casey Middlestat now centering Skinner and Tuck. Like it's 2 good lines. And if you're in a super deep league, Jordan Greenway is a person, like another third wheel, like some of them that we've talked about. I believe he got a point in the last game. So yeah, actually 3 points in 5 games so far this year. So maybe I'm not giving enough credit to Jordan Greenway as someone that maybe you should want to look at, especially for just this Monday game at the very least.
For 1 game, I mean the danger, and I ended up at it like I was trying to pick which Saber or Hab to stream in, and I picked Middlestat to Elon just because I felt like there was like the worst case scenario for him in the depth chart was better than what Harvey Pinard's would be and better than what Greenway's would be. So that's why I went Middlestat. But Greenway, if he can hold on to this top line deployment for another game, which remains to be seen, but with some success there already, like I will happily take the guy playing with Tage Thompson.
Yeah, well, hopefully if Thompson can actually start converting on some of these shots, then you'll see some assists from Greenway. We had a question from Auntie wanting to ask us what's going on with Tuck's shot rates. So yeah, Tuck only has 1.4 shots per game after 5 games when he was closer to 3 last year. Do we really have any way to like look into it aside from just being like, it's not that good. He should be shooting more, but he hasn't been. I guess you could look at like blocked shots or like missed shots. How are his shot attempt rates looking, Brian?
Sorry, I'm just gonna need a sec. I was not on top of that one.
Robot at work. Calculating.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah, Elon, I wish it was as rosy as that Tuck is taking the same shots and they're not getting through, but he's having like a Batherson type kind of look to his shot rates. Like shot attempts are way down, actual shots are way down, like down from the usual 9 per 60 minutes to 3 shots on goal per 60 minutes. And his expected goals rates are also way down. So I'm just taking a look at Tuck's on ice numbers too. Yeah, those are down also. And the Sabres are scoring on 3% of their shots while he's on the ice at 5-on-5. So like that could be part of it, but it's not all of it because Tuck is kind of tucking it up.
Okay. Next up, we'll go to Chicago. Ryan Donato has been demoted, it seems, from the top line. Taylor Radish there. So maybe he's interesting, though it does kind of seem like playing with Bedard isn't as exciting as it seemed at first. Like Taylor Hall is looking like someone that's maybe starting to look a little droppable in some leagues, even though he's on the top line and top power play. So hard to recommend anyone else on Chicago. Where are you right now on Taylor Hall, Brian? Would you still hold on, or would you get nervous? Like there's no shots, man.
No,
this guy.
I'm like coming to this realization, which we should. I mean, we wanted to believe that Connor Bedard could be like Connor McDavid, and it doesn't matter who he's playing with and who else is on the team. He is going to drag whoever he's playing with into great scoring numbers. And that's just not what's turning out to be. And that's not like a knock on Bedard at all. It's not a knock on what we can expect from him in the future. But for now, I mean, like, listen, teams have one line, one guy to focus on in Chicago. It's one guy on one line. And I think teams are doing an effective job of shutting down Connor Bedard, which thereby shuts down the offense on all of Chicago. This is a team with 14 goals through 6 games, and I don't know how much better it's going to get for the Blackhawks as we go forward through the season. So I'm sort of recalibrating my expectations for Chicago as being like, yeah, I don't expect them to score a whole lot of goals, and that's a reason why I wouldn't want anyone on the roster except for Bedard, who had a cardio session a couple games ago. And I guess Seth Jones also is someone that I want to roster for the power play, and like, defensive like Vorp. But aside from that, I'm not, we might be just in this situation again that we were in with Chicago last year, where it was Patrick Kane and Seth Jones, and they were both frustrating holds at times.
Yeah, man. I blew it with that Taylor Hall pick. This is going to be a long season, Brian, but we're going to have fun. Okay. Next up, Dallas. A lot of people wanting us to talk about Jason Robertson. Okay. The reason why we're on Dallas now is because of Joe Pavelski and how good he's been. He's the leading couple point getter. But everyone wants to hear why Jason Robertson only has 2 assists in 4 games, only 7 shots in 4 games. This is a guy who was approaching 4 shots per game last year. Now he's not even at 2. Brian, come on. Like, I don't have Jason Robertson, but I gotta imagine some people are just as frustrated with him as I am with Ovi and Tage Thompson and everything. But at least Tage Thompson is shooting. What's going on with Robertson?
Yeah, he's shooting. Robertson is shooting, like, unlike Tuck and Batherson. Robertson's shot attempts at 5-on-5 are similar to previous years, except the number of shots that are actually getting on net are halved, and his expected goals rates are also down. So I wonder, I don't know, Elon. I'm not sure. Like, I need more data. Like, we're only 4 games in, but there is like a noticeable drop in how dangerous Jason Robertson's play is at 5-on-5 and how great his shot attempts are. And the team he's playing with, like, no one's doing so hot themselves. But it's like one stat that'll make you jump is that Jason Robertson has played almost 11 minutes on the power play this season. Guess how many shots he has?
Oh, none.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I said yeah, none. 0.
Oh no.
It's crazy. Like, this is a guy who should be firing away.
So obviously, like, hopefully don't panic. He's like really good player. He's super young. Like, there's no reason why he shouldn't bounce back. So let's just like wait on him and we'll talk about him next week or something. Once we get a bit more data.
Yeah. Like, he's not someone I'd be like, and just to like, for fantasy actionable advice, he's not someone that I would be reluctant to buy low on. Like, I'm not writing him off or thinking what we're seeing is like a weird season long trend and he's cooked. I would still go for it. I doubt anyone's going to let him go for cheap, but yeah. Like, I'm still expecting Robertson to have the same season we expected him to. Whereas someone like Alex Tuck, I'm not all the way there. Like, I don't know. I'm a little more worried about him.
Yeah, so I think just like I said before, that you might be able to get a Matthew Tkachuk for DeBrincat. Maybe you can get a Jason Robertson for DeBrincat if you hit a nervous J. Rob manager. So maybe if you have DeBrincat, that's a trade you can try to go for because he was like
Yeah,
he was a top
I
top
think
line
I would
or
do that.
top round pick last year. Okay, next up, Brian. Oh, I'll mention also Wyatt Johnson had a really good game against Philly. So we'll see if he's going to start a bit of a breakout. 1 goal, 2 assists. But okay, let's go to Seattle. Ugh, like whatever. Burakovsky's hurt right now. Also makes this even more frustrating, I'm sure. So they're not a team that you want to look to for fantasy.
Yeah, and wasn't
Unfortunately.
Burakovsky like barely doing anything also before
Yeah.
getting injured? Like he was like the one guy who you feel like, yeah, he'll be okay on Seattle. And like he was averaging like barely 2 shots per game. Wasn't even on like the most used power play unit. Yeah.
Yeah. He had 2 assists in his last full game. So
Yeah.
maybe when Burakovsky, I don't even know what is it. Should I look it up what his injury is? Does it matter?
I would say I think what I'd say like with this opportunity, like I would say Burakovsky taking a little vacation could be an
Oh, wait.
opportunity.
Sorry, Brian.
What?
It's 6 to 8 weeks. I didn't realize. I should have read this
Oh,
first. 6 to 8 weeks with an undisclosed upper body injury. So it's going to be a long
that's
vacation for
weird. Like
Burakovsky.
why every upper body injuries every upper body injury is undisclosed. That's why it's called an upper body injury. It's
Yeah.
weird that they would add that in. That makes me like more suspicious. But what I would do with this is because I assume Burakovsky's been dropped in your league, I would stash him. I think it's a nice opportunity and see if he comes back from his little injury vacation in better shape and readier to start his season.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we got the Islanders next. Dobson. No, Dobson's having a good little run, points in 3 straight. Also, Palmieri was a good reco by us last week. He had a couple good games. So if Palmieri's out there, go grab him. I don't have any questions for you about the Islanders. Next up, Brian, San Jose. How so San Jose sucks, right? They only have 7 goals in 5 games. Believe it or not, Tomas Hertl has 5 points in 5 games, even though like he's literally in on 5 of the 7 goals the team has scored. So if Tomas Hertl could have an 80-point season on this Sharks team, they should build a statue of him in front of the stadium. That would be insane.
Yeah, they should. I'm with you. I mean, honestly, just for playing with this team, I think they should build a statue with him. Like for not demanding a trade. That should be what he asks for. And what's kind of funny is that Hurdle's only scored 1 of the goals, right? He has 5 points in 5 games, but 4 of those were assists, including 1 on the power play. Yeah.
But I'm not even going to mention who. Like, don't grab anyone else in San Jose. Trust me. It's not going to work out for you.
Yeah, and they sent down their only potentially fantasy relevant defenseman. Henry Thrun is gone, right? Like they're like, he doesn't need to be here.
Kyle Burrows.
He'll work on his game.
Kyle Burrows was on the top power play last game. That's all we need to say.
But we don't want him, right?
Oh, of course. That's what I mean.
Okay.
All right. So yeah, but Hertl bringing San Jose to not the last team we're going to talk about here. There's 2 teams that have a lower leading score. Man. Next is the Washington Capitals.
San Jose is so bad. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not done. Do you know like the next leading scorer on San Jose? Like Barabanov has 0 points. Like I'm looking at who's playing with Hertl. Duclair has 1. Henry Thrun, who got sent down, had 2 points in 2 games. He is tied for the second leading scorer on the team. Fabian Zetterlund and Philip Zadina, who's also injured. Apparently, oh no, he's a Band-Aid boy. Sorry, I should know the Dauber logos by now. Has 2 points. A handful of guys have 1, and most of the team still has 0. Wasteland.
Yeah. All right. Washington is next. Also, not like they should not be this low. Ovi should be in the top 10. Oh my gosh. Okay, so or maybe top 15. You would have hoped for. In the last game against Montreal, Dylan Strome had a good game. He scored, so that's good. Ovi was taking shots. Who knows? Maybe things are starting to turn around. Dylan Strome is the guy you want to grab right now because he's the only person that's like producing and helping Ovi take shots. So I'm imagining he's going to stick on that line. And yeah, if he's still available for agency, maybe now is a good time to grab Dylan Strome. Also, if Washington is really as bad as they're looking, then Darcy Kemper is someone that we like maybe had too high in Schmore goalies board because he'll play a lot, but I worry that he's like a John Gibson from the past. Just like he might play a lot, but he's not going to do much.
And he's not going to win much either. So like in the cupful where he is my only starting goalie, yeah, I am wondering how valuable he'll be to me full season. He's going to have to play really well if the wins aren't coming. But Washington, another total fantasy wasteland. Matthew Phillips, if you didn't know, I meant to lead with John Karlsson and Matthew Phillips. Both have 3 points in 4 games. Ovechkin and Strome with 2. There's 4 guys with 1, and even more guys on Washington have no points so far than San Jose's roster.
Yikes. Yeah, well, and some names are like Kuznetsov we're waiting on. Let's go, guys. Let's go.
I should mention, like, I think Washington plays 4 times this week, right? Like you probably mentioned this on Matchup Maximizer.
Mm-hmm.
But Matthew Phillips is playing on the top line. 5'8", 160 is what he's listed at. 25 years old, career AHLer so far. But one of those small productive AHLers, and now like co-tied for the lead in points, even though he plays like 12 minutes a night. If you're looking for like a really short-term stream to add some points, I'm like,
take a shot.
He's as good a shot as anyone. Yeah.
Yeah. If he's playing with Ovi, and if you expect Ovi to score a goal at some point in his life. No, just kidding, not his life. But it would be, I don't know, I'm a little frustrated. Last team, Brian, St. Louis Blues. They haven't played much, to be fair. Brandon Saad is the leading team scorer after having a couple goals on line 1 with Buchnevich out. Jordan Kyrou has had a slow start. Do you think people should be worried about Kyrou and how he started the season? He was going pretty high in drafts after a really great breakout last season.
Like you said, like we haven't seen much of St. Louis. I mean, they've played as much as Washington. They might be as bad as Washington, but Kyrou's still like doing his usual thing for shooting. He still has like top power play deployment. He's actually playing a little more often this season than he has in the past. He's just scored 1 time on 13 shots when maybe we could have expected 2 times, which would give him 3 points in 4 games, which would make us maybe at least like a touch less concerned about him. Also, it's not like anyone around Kyrou is scoring either. At 5-on-5, Kyrou's on ice shooting percentage is 7%, which like is not as bad as some of the other guys we've mentioned, but it's not like in the past, Kyrou's on ice shooting percentage has been at 10% or even a little bit higher. So I'm not seeing anything like underlying that says he's doing worse. I am maybe concerned that his team isn't as effective as it once was, although his on ice expected goals rates are higher. So that tells me otherwise. But I guess so long as Buchnevich is injured, you just have to wonder if that is going to eat into Kyrou's ability to produce a little. But overall, no. Like I was not concerned. I think Kyrou's still going to be doing what we expect him to do.
Okay, and we could check in later and see if once we get a bit more data. I should mention Jordan Binnington's been so good. So we'll see if that lasts also. That'll be fun to check in on in a couple of weeks. Brian, we did it. We made it through all 32 teams. What a fun time. Hopefully the listeners enjoyed all 6 sections of this mega 2-part podcast. If you like the show, we'd love to hear from you. Tweet at us at Keeping Karlsson. We'd love a 5-star review wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you're subscribed because we've got Matchup Maximizer every week on Sunday mornings. We've got short shifts every Wednesday and Friday morning. Like, we're keeping you up to speed so you'll know everything going on in the world of fantasy hockey. So yeah, just subscribe to Keeping Karlsson and hope you've been enjoying the start to the season. It's been going by fast already. We're 2 weeks down. Yeah, I don't know how many more to go. 25. It's gonna be fun. So join us for the ride if you haven't subscribed yet. But with that, Brian, let's cue the outro music. I'll mention quickly also that we wouldn't mind if you want to become a patron of Keeping Karlsson. We've got a lot of perks to make it worth your while. KeepingKarlsson.com/patron. Brian, go ahead, read us the credits.
All right. This episode of the Keeping Karlsson Fantasy Hockey Podcast was presented by Dobber Hockey and powered by our patrons. Thanks a lot to our super supporters, Raffy reference in case you didn't catch it, who throw us a little extra change each month in appreciation and get a fancy color on our Discord server. Thank you, Roman, Don, Michael, Patrick, Arian, Ivan, Sammy, Andrea, Zach, Tom, Ryan, Derek, David, Rob, Max, Ricard, and Patty. You're all wonderful. And so are all of our patrons. So are all of you wonderful listeners. Thank you to Kevin A. Bear, our cacophile coordinator and Lord of the Bots. Thank you, Elon and Chims, for doing all you're doing over at GameDayTweets.com. All the the best resource, honestly, truly. It's the greatest. You can follow our Short Shifts house at Short Shifts KK on Twitter. You can, if you like our logos, they're by BrandonWeeb.com. If you like our music, it's by Pat Roach. This episode was researched with help from Dobber Hockey, Frozen Tools, Dobber Prospects, Natural Stat Trick, Evolving Hockey, Cap Friendly, The Athletic, HockeyGoldies.org, Hockey Reference, Hockey Viz, Hockey Database, Elite Prospects, and Yahoo.
Great job as always, Brian. Looking forward to those 2 short shifts episodes coming up this week, and then talking to you about everything that happens in the week next Sunday. Oh, and Brian, we have a patron cast. We didn't even announce that yet. Patron cast coming on Tuesday. We've announced it to the patrons, but now everyone else can know. And if you want to become a patron, not too late to come and join us for our monthly show where we answer all the questions that the patrons throw at us. But while we wait for all of this fun in the coming week, what should we all be doing in the meantime?
Well, first thing to do is put on a Raffi record. All right, have yourself a good time. And last thing you should do, and always thing you should do, is do what you can to make sure that fantasy hockey is for everyone.
Nice. Thanks everyone for watching. Great job, Brian. Later. Bye-bye.
Bye. Good night.